From the Smyth Radio Studios, it's Carrie and Brian Smith. This is Smyth Radio. You can tweet at Smyth Radio, SMYTH Radio. And now, your host, Carrie and Brian Smith.
What a heart stopper, folks. What a heart stopper.
Oh, there's never any end to the drama here at the Smyth Radio Studios. Wow.
It's usually my fault. And usually somewhere, somehow, there's just so many buttons, folks.
Send your resume if you'd like to be our producer.
Need a quick one. Anyways, welcome to the show, folks. This is Smyth Radio, military veteran talk radio. I am Brian Smith, and this is
Carrie Smith.
My cousin. He was in the Marine Corps back in the 90s, and I was in the Air Force in the 90s. We've been doing Smyth Radio, exposing fake news and all the lies. We've been doing Smyth Radio. This is our 5th year now.
Is it?
And our first year of video. So at the beginning of this year, we've been doing video all throughout the whole year. Been getting really good at it. So if this is the first time you've been on the show, seen the show, share it, like it, make a comment, say something about it, hit the heart. If you're on Vimeo, if you want to catch the show audio, go to iHeartRadio, type in Smyth, SMYTH space radio.
And you may actually be listening to this right now as a replay if you're watching on Facebook, right?
Correct. Facebook has now been set up because we are not allowed to go live on Facebook.
Why is that? Why is that?
Facebook has a rule.
Okay.
If you're live on Twitter or you're live on YouTube, you are not allowed
I didn't know that.
To be live on Facebook.
Wow. Okay.
It's their own personal rule, nothing to do with us. So anyways, Monday nights, I've been replaying the show, and people have been loving it. So in our last week's show, if you missed it, you got to check it out. One of our biggest shows that we've had in a very, very long time. Things are really starting to pick up for us.
Sorry about
and
that.
I want to thank every single one of our Patreons out there that have been following us, helping us, and walking through all the news with us throughout the entire week. And if you want to be a part of Smyth Radio, helping Donald Trump make America great again, we are Donald Trump's legacy. You watching here, us here, we are the legacy of Trump. Go to patreon.com/Smyth Radio. And if you ever are in doubt at all whether how to find Carrie on Twitter, me on Twitter, or even Trump on Twitter, go to smithradio.com. Everything is there. The live show is there.
That's how I'm sharing it now. I'm like, just go to smithradio.com and you will find what you need.
Yeah, the show will be there on the top of the website throughout the entire week. And then when we go live again today, I change it for this morning. So it says show will be live at 5 o'clock. And so that's when it changes, and then you can watch the next show today.
And if you look right underneath me and it says Smyth Radio, the patreon.com/Smyth Radio link is very important. We have a nice little party going on every single day, 24 hours a day, where people go onto a chat room and they can chat amongst each other. And, of course, Brian and I chime in all the time. And you get a lot of exclusive content there. It's well worth at least you could donate whatever you want per month, as little as $1, and be a part of it. And I will tell you, they will all tell you that they get very, very exclusive information, sometimes information that I have to tell them to not share.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Well, we got a good buddy, Sam. He doesn't mind us mentioning his name. He's actually been on the show a couple of times. He knows a lot about the healthcare industry. And ironically, this week he made a comment in our group about how the federal government isn't handing out money to the Obamacare thing because a judge ruled it, the Obamacare rules, they're illegal, and so the federal government can't fund it. The judge has stopped it, and that's been stopped since February, so Obamacare just really ain't working.
And you hear it now, but you would have heard it earlier in the week if you were part of the Patreon group. So definitely jump all over that. So the big thing that we're starting with today, and he will be joining us in about 20 minutes, according to what he was telling us, is
Hillary Clinton's running 2020.
No, we're going to talk about the Jim Jordan debacle, which is actually more like an Ohio State medical doctor, athletic doctor debacle that somehow Jim Jordan was conveniently thrown into thanks to mainstream media. And so we have somebody coming on that has a lot of great inside information because he pretty much knows almost all people involved. So,
and he knows more details than you and I have ever heard. You'll never hear this anywhere, folks. This is, I titled it, Jim Jordan Exclusive Details.
Yes. So the guy is George Pardos, and I guess I'll go ahead and throw this out there right now. If you got a pen and a paper handy, go ahead and write this down. You can follow him at facebook.com/gpardos. So it's GPARDOS. Go ahead and give him a follow. He also does his own podcast on occasion. I think he told me he does it Sunday nights, and I think it starts at like 9. So you might actually catch him tonight after our show at 9. And he may go other times too. We'll ask him about it when he comes on. But yeah, he's kind of getting started, and he's got a lot of inside information, and he would love for you guys to follow him. So anyway, so what happened this week, or I should say last week? Jim Jordan had told somebody in an interview that he is definitely going to throw his hat in the ring for House Speaker after Paul Ryan steps down, because he's already announced his retirement, and we're all thankful for that, being Trump supporters.
Absolutely.
And he's part of that establishment. Paul Ryan is part of the establishment that has been a thorn in the Trump movement's side because of the fact that they call themselves Republican, but for some reason they don't seem to subscribe to the problem-solving success story that is the Donald Trump movement.
Well, yeah, I mean, and even when Paul Ryan was pitching, he kept coming on Sean Hannity's show when Donald Trump they were trying to get rid of Obamacare. He kept coming on Sean Hannity's show, and he would do this dance, and he'd walk it around. He's a good speaker. He's like, we got to do this, we got to do a good salesman too.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
If he's retiring and needs some extra money, he could sell some used cars.
He'd be a great used car salesman because he doesn't sound like a used car salesman. That's the key. If you sound like a used car salesman, you're going to run for the hills.
Yes.
So he's able to pull it off very nicely, and so we're glad that he's retiring. And it seems like, to a lot of people's surprise, if you've been following politics for a long time, I can tell you this. Me personally, I've always thought that Jim Jordan was something special, and I would have never known who he was, not just because he's in Ohio and I'm in Ohio, so I know who he is, but also because of the wrestling background and my involvement with Ohio wrestling. So, the whole Jordan family is heavily involved with that at all levels, youth, junior high, and high school. And so I've already known about him. So I've got to know his politics by paying closer attention to him than your average person that follows politics. And one thing I have learned over the years is this is the kind of conservative that we've all wanted, if you are conservative, to be running our government, representing the people who are conservative, more so than any other Republican out there. Right. The problem is because of his, I call him the last Boy Scout of Congress because he's like that untouchable guy. If you know anything about the Untouchables, like Elliot Ness and all them, they were called the Untouchables because the problem with Chicago back then was that everybody was corrupt. Well, actually today is too.
I mean,
totally
corrupt. I don't know what you say about today.
There's a lot of allegations that seem very plausible these days of congressmen being very corrupt, totally paid off. I mean, look at Marco Rubio. He runs. Everybody in the Tea Party's excited about him running. He wins. We're all excited. A big win for the Tea Party. And then he turns into one of the worst establishment rhino cucks out there. I mean, he's not a McCain, but he's pretty bad. And we're all like, what happened? Like, it seems like he was taken behind closed doors and either offered a duffel bag or one of those manila envelopes where you open it up and it's black and white pictures of you in very compromising situations.
You're passed out and they did things to you and it just wasn't no good.
Right. So it turns out that Congressman Jim Jordan seems to be one of the only, if not the only person in Congress back then, maybe not so much now, but back then, that was not subject to this. And because of this, his power's been very limited. Because one of the things when you sell your soul to the devil is that you get riches and wealth and power, right?
The Clintons.
That's the reason why people sell their soul to the devil.
Right.
To get the wealth and the power and all that. Of course, you end up in hell for the rest of your life. But, I mean, rest of eternity, sorry, not the rest of your life, but the rest of eternity. it seems like the good people just don't exist in Congress, except for Congressman Jim Jordan. So I was always pushing for him to get more power, and it never happened. Fast forward to this Russia hoax, the Russia collusion hoax, and it's gotten so bad that people start rallying around the idea of this being a hoax and start realizing and looking at the evidence and finding out that it's a hoax. And when Jim Jordan, the last Boy Scout of Congress, comes along and starts really, really pushing back hard on the hoax, everybody thinks he's awesome. He's branded as a hero, and I felt like it's long overdue. Well, guess what comes with popularity?
Scandals, stories, hate.
No, well, you get power in
oh,
America.
Sorry, you get power, but then you're gonna get people that don't like you.
Oh yeah, you fast forwarded to what happens when you get the power.
I totally jumped the shark.
Yes, well that's okay because that is coming next. So you get the power, and all of a sudden people start looking. Hey, look, Jim Jordan, he's starting to get really popular.
Not only that, but he's been a politician for 20.
He's one of the most senior
years.
Congressmen in all of Congress, both houses. I mean, he's
okay. So now he says, "I'm going to run for speakership," and we love.
He said he's going to throw his hat in the ring.
Right.
Yeah. So once that happens, he's just like, "Yeah, I'm definitely game for putting my name in the hat or throw my hat in the ring."
And so the powers to be.
Yeah.
Obviously, they contacted the right people. Man, they've got their tentacles in everything, Carrie. They were able to contact the right people in the right position to come up with something crazy.
Yeah, well, and we're going to get into that with this interview, but basically the setup to the interview, which we'll get into in probably the next 10, 15 minutes, is that let's talk about Jim Jordan's past, okay? So Congressman Jim Jordan is a lot of people don't know this, but he was the first 4-time state champion out of Ohio in high school wrestling. And that's a big deal because it's extremely hard to win state as a freshman. And even if you pull that off, the odds of you winning it the next 3 goes, extremely difficult.
Right.
It's been tried by many, many people, and many have failed. And everybody thought it was impossible until Jim Jordan came along, and then his brother matched the feat, Jeff Jordan.
And you know his brother.
Yes, I know Jeff. I never met Jim, but and full disclosure, I've met Jeff, and I know I haven't been to his house and had dinner with him or anything like that, but I have worked for many years for a lot of people that trained under him, and we've chatted for a very brief moment, and we run into each other at tournaments every once in a while and whatnot. But that being said, Jim Jordan went on to wrestle for Wisconsin, and then when he was done with winning the NCAA tournament, and I've had to tell people when I was on Your Voice America, I was like, guys, this guy's tough. He's an NCAA champion, so I have to remind people how tough he is. And there's also a cool video that I've shared out there of his final. And by the way, did you know that he won the NCAA tournament against a man named John Smyth? Sounds like a very common name.
Yeah.
So John Smyth is a legend in Olympic sport, in Olympic wrestling. He is a gold medal winner, and many consider one of the greatest American wrestlers of all time.
Wow.
And that's who Jordan had to beat in the NCAA finals, and he did.
Wow.
He beat him. So that being said, we're talking about a very tough guy, very hard worker, and the last Boy Scout of Congress. One thing I can tell you is that the reason why the Jordans are so popular in the Ohio wrestling community is because the entire family is they are
connected.
The model. No, not connected. They are the model of character. It seems like they're the entire philosophy of coaching wrestling is about character, and they live it.
Right.
They definitely practice what they preach, and so it's not just Jim Jordan who's the last Boy Scout of Congress. Jeff Jordan is definitely, like I guess you would call him a Boy Scout of wrestling coaching. And so this is what we're dealing with here, and you're not going to hear any of this on CNN. These people, they're not from Ohio, and even if they were from Ohio, they're probably not involved in the wrestling community, so they don't know this culture. That's really what it boils down to. And so Jim Jordan goes on after college to coach at Ohio State University, and I think he coached there for 8 years.
Head coach or assistant coach?
He was an assistant coach. Okay. And we'll get more into this in our interview with one of his former students at okay, gotcha.
It's still pending.
No, wait, he's going to be there for another 10 minutes. So we'll get on there for 10 minutes. But George Pardos was a wrestler at the Ohio State. Yeah, you got to say that. So Brian's father graduated from there, so he knows a little bit more about the Ohio State culture.
Oh, they you have to say lifelong. Yeah,
the like THEE.
Yeah,
two E's.
The Ohio State.
Okay, and, so the Ohio State. So he's coaching there, and he coached there for 8 years from, I think it was 86 to 94. And George Pardos was there and coached and wrestled as a wrestler under what he calls Coach Jimmy, because he was in his 20s back then. So some of them referred to him as more of like a big brother when he was coaching. And
87 to 95.
Oh,
Jim Jordan was assistant coach at Ohio, the Ohio State University program from 1987.
It didn't say the though.
They messed up, and I'm gonna correct them.
Okay, so when referring to Ohio, it's kind of like a rank.
When referring to the Ohio State, you must say the.
Okay, it's kind of like you don't like if I had Congressman Jim Jordan on, I wouldn't refer to him as Jimmy.
No,
it would be Congressman Jordan.
Right. Yeah. President Donald J. Trump.
Yeah, like you don't say, "Hey, my Trump, what's up?" Right. Probably it's Mr. President or whatever. So anyway, so the Ohio State University. So as he's apparently, unbeknownst to people like us who have not gone, they had a team doctor who was kind of strange. He was kind of strange, or at least that's what is alleged.
Yeah.
So the wrestlers there, and he was the team doctor for 14 different teams, or there was allegations from 14 different sports. All the sports, like an athletic doctor.
Right.
I don't know if there must have been multiple doctors there, right? It just wasn't one doctor. But this one in particular doctor, Richard Strauss, is apparently known for I don't know,
touchy-feely.
Well, yeah, and so apparently some wrestlers had some issues with the way he conducted himself. So he had a locker apparently right next to Congressman Jim Jordan when he was an assistant coach there, and there's complaints from people today that back then. And some say they even complained about it back then, that he would take showers with them, which, I mean, they had open showers.
Yeah.
If you took a shower, you were showering with whoever else was showering at that time.
Well, I mean, when we were in the military and you took a shower, but in the Air Force, staff sergeants didn't come into the shower.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Airmen.
Well, I wouldn't. It's the civilian world's different, though. It's not like a doctor is necessarily a superior of maybe of a student, because he was actually a professor too. He actually taught some classes. So, okay, maybe there's a little bit of fraternization potential there.
Okay, if you were the coach and you were on the mat wrestling and you broke sweat, I could see the coach maybe showering off real quick. But the team doctor?
It was a community shower.
Why did he take a shower at home?
Well, okay. If you don't know, if you're not a wrestler, you don't get dressed and go home after wrestling without showering up. Right. There's like skin issues that could develop if you don't scrub yourself and get yourself clean before you pretty much immediately after practice. I think is very critical. And you guys that lift weights know you don't you put your body on a bench that other people are working out on, and it could be a sanitation issue where you got to make sure that you clean off other people's bodily fluids. So, when you mix sweat and all that kind of stuff, there could be some skin issues that you want to take care of by taking. So anyway,
just real quick, just a heads up, FYI, on this doctor. He's been dead for 13 years.
Right. So he committed suicide in 2005. So he's no longer around to defend himself or whatever. No allegations that I know of actual abuse
prior
while he was alive.
Yeah.
We're going to talk to George Pardos about what what atmosphere was really going on there. You're going to hear it from the horse's mouth. He was there. He had to shower in these community showers. He had to go and get looked at by Dr. Richard Strauss, who is the accused here. And so here's the issue. Here, let's just cut to the chase. With Jim Jordan, Congressman Jordan, at the time being an assistant coach, it's being alleged that he knew about this, and that, of course, your mainstream media outlets like your CNNs and your MSNBCs and New York Times and Washington Post.
Vox has got a good one. Vox said they've got all the inside details.
Okay, so these outlets, which if you've been watching Smyth Radio for a long time, we've exposed multiple times of them putting out 100% verified fake news, totally debunked. All right, so these outlets definitely have credibility issues, but mainly they're biased against conservatives, and I mean unfairly and sometimes dishonestly biased. So they are going to jump all over this. They are going to try to make it look like it was Congressman Jordan himself who was doing the abusing. You will hear and read all kinds of headlines about how people are accusing Jordan of stuff.
Okay, right. And so even Vox says 5 men have come out and accused the doctor of this, and they were nice enough to put in there that that Jim Jordan has denied all accusations. That's nice of them.
Okay, and see, there right there was the fake news. Did you hear that? Jim Jordan is not denying that Dr. Strauss abused wrestlers. He's denying that he knew about it. And that is an incredibly important distinction. And that's what we got to combat this. It's news outlets like us who are not going to go for the flashy headlines or the fake news or the clickbait that are just going to try to weed through all the weeds, wade through all the crap and the lies and the distortions, and try to get to the truth of the matter. And do you have an actual?
Yeah, I got a minute clip of Jim Jordan.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, on Fox News.
Let's hear what Jim Jordan said.
This is what Jimmy said.
Out to us, they sent it to a non-existent email address. So think about
this. Is Perkins and Coie.
Perkins Coie, Hillary Clinton's law firm. So the same law firm that can find an ex-British spy to put together a dossier to go after President Trump can't find a congressman's email address, can't get a hold of me, and then they tell the press, we reached out to him, he didn't respond. That is just complete bogus. And I mean, Brett, when we have one of these hearings in Congress, I tell you one thing, every liberal in the country seems to be able to find our phone number and find our address and call us up. But this law firm who's supposedly doing this investigation couldn't find that.
You didn't receive an email from them.
We did not.
You didn't receive any contact from them.
They have not contacted. Now they've been in contact with us since they said that, and we're going to sit down with them. We want to get to the truth. If there were people who were abused, they deserve justice. But what has been said about me is completely false. And it's been said by one individual who spent 18 months in prison for fraud, another individual who has this vendetta against Ohio State, who was bilking a fallen Marines fund, who has numerous lawsuits and was arrested. That's the kind of guy the press puts on TV.
Just to be clear.
So he's talking about Mike DeSabato, who is another family name that's very prominent in Ohio wrestling to this day. There's DeSabato's wrestling at all levels to this day. So that, we're talking sons and nephews. Apparently, Mike DeSabato, who's the person they're talking about, has a bunch of siblings, and they all have kids, and they all wrestle. So you got these two prominent wrestling families in Ohio, and Ohio is a very, very, very serious state when it comes to wrestling. It's taken unbelievably serious. It's almost like football, high school football in Texas.
Texas, yes.
I'm not kidding.
Yes.
So wrestling in Ohio is like football in Texas.
I agree.
And it really is that serious, and so there's a lot of this stuff going on. So Mike DeSabato, who was an OSU student during the time that Strauss was there, and during the time that Congressman Jordan, who you just heard, was an assistant there. And he's one of several making the claims that they were abused by Dr. Strauss. The one thing that they decided to focus on, and especially the Democrat, the propaganda arm of the Democrats, which is your mainstream medias like your CNNs and whatnot, they're trying to focus on the accusation that Congressman Jordan, at the time assistant coach Jimmy, knew about the abuse at the time that he was coaching there. And, of course, Congressman Jimmy, as you may or may not know, I'll just go ahead and tell you, he is denying that he knew about abuse while he was there.
But if there was abuse going on, those folks need to, get some kind of help in the sense of whether it's retribution and in the sense of money or I don't know. They need to seek medical attention in the sense of psychological attention.
Right.
Whatever the case may be, they need to be helped and need to be heard, taken seriously. But like he said, there's two of them right now that are felons that have defrauded things, defrauded a fallen veterans fund, have defrauded spent time in prison. I mean, these are the characters that the Democrats dig up to start slinging mud. I mean, what are we talking about? We're talking about Stormy Daniels all over again. That thing's the wheels are falling off that cart too,
right.
as well.
And that's another thing. I've had a lot of people try to conflate or compare different instances of sexual abuse or sexual deviancy from Democrats or whatever, and compare it to what's going on with Jim Jordan. So one person brought up Anthony Weiner, and another person brought up the Al Franken. Now the thing about those two, okay, so you're all,
man, I'm getting triggered here.
Yeah,
man.
so you're getting triggered. The reason you're getting triggered,
I feel like that's what Gen X is going to say to me tomorrow at work. He's going to come by. Yep, you got your Anthony Weiner right there, baby.
Right. So here's the problem: we're talking the accusations are against a doctor named Richard Strauss, who's been dead for 13 years, and Anthony Weiner was soliciting underage girls and had evidence for this happening.
And he's doing jail time. He's doing prison time. We're talking about a doctor who did this that's now dead.
He can't defend himself, but then also now it's he said, she said, and I don't doubt that this was actually happening, especially when you get to about 5, 6, 7 people that are claiming these things. It's kind of like, well,
no, I don't know. I mean, you had 25 women come out against Trump during the campaign.
Oh, that's true.
Where are they now? Where are any of them now?
And the Larry Nassar thing, which was Michigan State.
I was going to bring that up, and I think that's why they think they can do this.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely.
Oh, and Penn. You said Michigan State?
Yeah, Michigan State was
What about Penn State?
Oh, well, that was the Sandusky thing. So, looks like we have George Pardos on. Let's see if we can get him on. We got his audio, it sounds like. You gonna oh,
gotta wait for his video to
yeah, the video's coming up. He's coming on now, so
let me get all this squared away.
Get it squared away. So yeah, you have the Larry Nassar thing, which was Michigan State, and there was big payouts there. Of course, we have a ton of people coming out against Larry Nassar, testifying, and he didn't fight that, did he? He pretty much admit that. And, of course, when it came about that it was determined that Michigan State probably was very neglectful in that situation, they paid out big money to a lot of different victims. And so it's possible that we're dealing with the situation where maybe there's dollar signs that people are kind of looking at. So,
okay.
Whoa. I guess
you got your audio. Yeah, there we go. All right.
So we have George Pardos on the line. Do you hear us? Okay.
5 by 5.
All right. Great. Awesome. I
got it over there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome. I've got his name up there on the screen. George Pardos. Facebook.com/GPARDOS. Correct?
Yep.
All right. Make sure you guys are following him there. So you actually wrestled for Ohio State during the time that Mike DeSabato was there, and also under Coach Jimmy Jordan at the time. He was just an assistant. Is that correct?
Yes. And my so let me give you a time frame. Mike DeSabato was there and graduated and finished school in 90, and I started in 88 and finished in 93. So we had 2 years that interlapped together, and he was there 2 years prior. So that's kind of the time frame. But yes, I was I was there at the same time with Mike DeSabato, and Jimmy Jordan was my assistant.
And how well, I mean, did you guys become close friends or anything, or was it just, hey, he's a teammate, or did you hang out much, or did everybody hang out much?
Are you talking about Mike DeSabato, or are you talking about Jimmy Jordan? So just
well, I guess teammates, so it would be Mike DeSabato and other teammates.
We've been. I've known Mike since 1982. Since I started wrestling at Westland High School, and he went to Bishop Reedy, so I've known him since then. And I've been over to his house for Sunday dinner when his mom would make dinner for the team, and we'd come over there and we'd hang out, and so
this goes back to high school days then.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, this isn't a guy that I just met at Ohio State. I mean, I've known him. We used to go to Emilio's Pizza. My cousin Rocky Edwards wrestled with his family there in a class of 1980. So I've known him and the family for a long time.
Okay. And then you wrestled did you wrestle all 4 years at Ohio State? I know you said that.
I wrestled 5. I had one red shirt. So I started in September of 88, and I graduated in the spring of 93. So during that whole time, I never took a year off.
Well, this isn't really related to the story, but I wanted to point everybody that you also joined the Marine Corps and wrestled for them too, right?
Right. I was on the 87, 88 All-Marine team.
Awesome. Well, this is Military Veteran Talk Radio, so you fit right in, and of course, we all thank you for your service.
And then you also have a show that comes on Sunday nights.
Yeah, we have one on Veteran Radio Syndicate, comes on at 9:00 called the Bear News. And one of the reasons my nickname is the Bear for a couple reasons. One is because I'm pretty big, but number two is because back in my college days, I foot swept the Bear on campus. So they had this. Now, you got to tell, I mean, this is a different era, but there used to be a bar on campus called Park Alley. And every once in a while to bring people in and do, they'd have midget tossing, they'd have the Bear, they'd have, Jello wrestling and stuff like that. But so they had the Bear one night, and if you could pin the Bear, I think you got like $500 or something like that.
Did he have claws and teeth?
Well, they had a muzzle over it.
Okay.
And his claws were not, they were
trimmed back a little bit.
Oh. Trim back a little bit. So, I got on the mat. I mean, I got in the ring with him, and he kind of stands up on his back paws and.
Oh no! Did we lose him right in the middle of the story? Oh, I have to try to call him back. Oh. Foot swept the Bear. We're right in the middle of it.
Well, you know why that cut out.
Oh, because the Bear is in charge.
Well, yeah. I mean, you've got PETA. PETA's listening.
PETA. Yeah, I forgot about PETA. Let's see if we can get him back. Man, that is crazy. I hope it's not his. Well, I hope it's not either of our connections. That's kind of weird. Skype is so weird. Anyway, man. All right. So you guys make sure you guys type in any questions you might have. I see Vessi on the chat. This is a time to hear from the horse's mouth. See if we can ring him back up. Man, that's so weird. I wonder if he knows. He might still be telling the story. He's still telling the story. Who knows? Hopefully he realizes it froze up. Oh, man. Anyway. His battery went dead. That would be the end of that.
Man.
Just our luck. You got
to plug it in.
Oh, man.
It might be him.
Oh, man. What happened?
Swept the leg of a bear. I would be scared SH-less.
Back when, come on, when you were a young Ute back in the day.
I mean, if I wrestled like that in college and they had a bear, I'd do it. You'd have to.
Oh, man.
Yes, I don't know what's going on with his.
It says he's online.
Yeah.
Oh, man. We'll get him in a second. So, is he calling?
No, I'm calling him.
Oh, okay.
But I don't get any video from him.
Okay. So anyway, what we're going to talk about
paints a picture of Ohio State in a little bit different light.
Well, back in the 80s, he said you got to realize it was a different era. It was a different era.
And it was what he said.
The person whom you're trying to reach is currently unavailable.
Currently unavailable. Okay, well, I will be texting him to see what the heck happened. He needs to plug his laptop in or something, whatever he's got.
All right.
Okay.
So we're talking, folks, if this is the first time you've been on Scope or if you just joined us, we're talking about everything Jim Jordan. We're getting into the details of what is really going on behind the scenes, a lot of the details that you've never heard about and you probably won't ever hear about, especially like the guy who's come out I've already forgot the guy's name. The one that's come out against Jim Jordan. That he was talking.
Mike DeSabato?
Yeah, Mike DeSabato. We're getting ready to get into the details about who Mike DeSabato is,
right,
what he's really all about, and who, when you say character counts, what is his character? What is he all about? And what did he used to brag about back in college?
Well,
something else I keep forgetting to mention, we're not talking about children here.
Oh, yeah. In fact, the very first time I heard about the allegations, I remember, look, Brian and I have been dealing with this stuff for years, allegation after allegation.
No, not us. No, we haven't been dealing with it. We've been talking about it on other people.
As political talk radio pundits, yes, we have absolutely had to report on every single crazy scandal because that's the name of the game. That's the ammunition. That's the weapons of mass destruction in politics is to come up with scandal. Have you played that game Stratego?
Is that the one where you sunk my battleship?
No, Stratego is the one where you have the spy and you have the bombs. You never played Stratego?
It sounds familiar.
No. Well, they have a political version where one side is Democrats and the other side is Republicans.
Wow.
And instead of bombs, because, the original game was...
Mazel tov cocktails.
No. Instead of a bomb, it's called a scandal. And it has a picture of a newspaper on it. So if you hit a scandal, you lose that piece.
You get a little snag.
Yeah, so that's obviously, man, I'll tell you what, I'm starting to think George's computer melted down.
Somebody got him. If he's using a PC, I'm feeling bad for him right now.
Oh, man. So he's going to, man, I'll tell you what, we're going to get him by hook or crook. So one way or another, I'm going to text him again here.
Oh, yeah. Well, you got U.S.opoly, Democrats versus Republicans, Stratego.
Yeah, so the big thing about that is instead of a bomb, I guess a political bomb would be a scandal. And so that's what they're doing here. It's
oh, well, yeah, I did play that game. Sure.
Yeah. Well, in the political version, it's Democrats versus Republicans.
Well, in my house, we couldn't play that game.
Because nobody would be the Democrats.
Yeah, who would volunteer that? I wouldn't even bother. Not at this stage. This stage in the game.
What would be funny is instead of having just the generic, president, whatever, or presidential candidate, I think is what it was, have the actual real names of current people. You'd have to keep changing them as they get fired.
No, you'd change them every 30 years.
No, these would be like for candidates.
Oh, because I was thinking
you're going for the White House. That's what you're going for.
So the whole stratego is when you catch the White House.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, instead of the flag, when you play regular old school stratego, you're trying to get their flag.
Yeah, capture the flag.
In the political one, you're trying to get the White House. Which is kind of
awesome,
weird because both sides have their own White House.
Yeah, that almost is kind of odd. Yeah.
But it's a compromise. What are you gonna do?
Well, you got to give it up.
Right, you got to give up the White House. Right. Instead of calling it the White House, they should call it I don't know. But anyway, so back to Jim Jordan.
Real quick, breaking news.
Yeah.
Real quick. And we are talking Jim Jordan, but we're waiting for our special guest to come back. It says, we're on Skype, and it says he's away, which means
that's not good.
He's still on, but he's not there. So it might be a technical glitch that he's working on right now. So we'll see what happens. But breaking news, just want to give everybody a heads up. I know this has been in the news the past few days. The children, the young kids, the soccer team or whatever, stuck in the cave.
Yeah.
That's flooding out.
Yes.
They're pumping oxygen in and pumping water out, and monsoon season. If you haven't seen the pictures, go on Twitter at Brian P. Smith.
So were they like caving? Were they hiking, and then all of a sudden there was a massive rainstorm or flood or something, or what happened?
Yeah, and they got trapped in there for 9 days. Nobody knew where they were.
Right. Everybody just figured they might be lost.
Right. So somebody found them. Problem is I've got all kinds of questions about this. First off, how did only the coach just go with the team of kids?
Well, it was Thailand, so
it's got to be a cultural thing, because I'm telling you what, Carrie and I'd be there. What dad wouldn't want to go spelunking with his son?
I see what you're saying. Yeah. It's like, my brother today just said, you know what, we need to go to Mammoth Cave.
Yeah, I've been wanting to go there for a long time.
Because, my brother likes to take his nephews and nieces out and do stuff, and that's cool. But if he's like, well, I'm taking the kids to Mammoth Cave, I'm like, yeah, let's go.
Me too.
Woo!
Yeah, me too. I'm driving.
I'm not going to be like, all right, have fun. Okay. Unless I absolutely positively couldn't go. But I would plan it out so that I could go.
Right. So a lot of different things are going on. Apparently, some reports say 5 have been rescued, 6 have been rescued. The numbers are going up and up, and they're looking like things are working for the best. And Donald Trump is involved.
Really?
Donald Trump tweeting out, working closely with the Thailand for the children. Many have already been rescued. I'm telling you what, Donald Trump's got a huge heart. And when he has the possibility of getting involved in something to help somebody, even like, I'm going to butcher his name, but the Army guy, Tamarosi, down, they accidentally crossed into Mexico. He helped him out, get back on his feet and get set. All righty then. Looks like we've got our connection back. Folks, again, we're talking about Jim Jordan. We have our special guest on, George Pardos. You can find him on Facebook, facebook.com/GPardos. And if you look at the bottom of the screen, he's right there. And while I pull up the video and everything, go ahead and we were right in the middle of you.
Yeah,
legs sweeping.
I'm so sorry. So whatever the connection is, and you know what, for broadcasting for 2 years on veteran radio, Skype is not always the best, the most stable platform.
Right.
So
hopefully.
Where were we at?
You were about to trip the bear.
Sweep the legs.
Yeah. So we're at Park Alley. We've been drinking.
Oh, real quick before you go on, is there any way you could bring the camera down a little bit? It's almost cutting your chin off.
Yeah,
there
right,
we go. Perfect. Yes.
Okay. So going back to that, we were Park Alley. I foot swept the bear, and ever since then, I'm going to tell you something too. I'm also a knee dan in judo, so I know how to throw people, and that was part of the thing. And then when you're in college, you do really stupid things.
No, never.
And the same thing in the Marine Corps. You do some stupid things. But, going back to this, this thing that has happened and transpired, none of us, and I want to say this because there's a lot of rumblings that have gone through the narrative of the media and the press. None of us want to discount the statements or any of the people that were affected by Dr. Strauss.
Correct.
And what everybody has said is, look, it's the same thing with Dinesh Yetz and the statements he made. If Dinesh is a fine, he's a fine human being. If you want to come forward with your story, tell the story. What you did at Ohio State and what you did afterwards are two different things. And part of the problem has been, and I think one of the issues has been, is that this is our view on it. Let's not politicize this. If young athletes were injured or hurt or damaged, there has to be some sort of measure to say, hey, first of all, let's not let this happen again. Do we need to put a patient advocate in with athletes on when certain examinations are being done? And what a patient advocate is a non-partial individual that comes in, maybe a nurse, an LPN licensed practical nurse, a doc, what do we need to do to protect the safety of the athletes? That's paramount. Number two is, do we train, or maybe that's not the right word, but do we educate athletes to say, if something is going on that you think is inappropriate, what mechanism can we instill into the university, into the process, where you can go to them and say, hey, this is what's going on. I don't feel right about it. And that is something that's important, because I don't think that no one here wants to say, that Ohio State is, that Ohio State acted recklessly. And that's what I think people are being led to believe. And that's just really,
we were there. Yeah.
I mean,
we were talking earlier before we brought you on. This is reminiscent of Penn State, Michigan. I mean, some of these other universities that have kind of.
Yeah, but there's a fine line, and one of the things that me and you were talking about earlier, and I want to explain this. What happened at Michigan State is different than what happened at Ohio State, and part of the issue is at Michigan State there was penetration, and once you have penetration, that goes to the next level. When you have,
and you're dealing with age of people that we know, or we all agree, would not be able to give consent, or should not legally be thought of to be able to give consent.
Right, and part of the situation too is, I want to point this out, and this is not a message from George Pardo. This is a message coming from the investigators at Perkins Coie, and they have had some federal prosecutors there in Ohio, and if you compare other states, I cannot vouch for those states, but in Ohio there is a level. It is a level that you cross, that it turns from being inappropriate to then being not inappropriate, but now being to criminal assault. And assault is one of the issues here, is that assault and inappropriate are two different things. Because in Ohio, and again, it goes back to it's called a duty of care, is that there's a line. I don't know. Let's say the line is up here. If he did an examination for, let's say, hernia, and he touched you for 5 seconds, that's inappropriate if he should have only touched you for 3. That might be inappropriate, but that's not criminal. It doesn't rise to the level of criminal.
And to use the word that we're talking about here, abuse is the word.
Abuse.
Yeah.
Now, abuse is, in the Ohio Revised Code, is spelled out. In the Ohio Revised Code, it's different, and sexual imposition is probably more, let's say, more of the right, the right example of the crime. And because part of it is, one of the sections that came up was under the Ohio Revised section, which the Ohio Revised Code is 2921.22. Any person with a knowledge of a serious crime, i.e. a felony, is required to report the crime to law enforcement authorities. The failure to report a felony is a crime misdemeanor. Now, this is, if, we talked about this earlier, that you are a wrestling coach. If one of your athletes came to you and said, hey, I'm getting beat, you saw bruises that look like child abuse at home, you're required to go tell that to the authority, be it a sheriff, be it a constable, be it, whatever law enforcement agency, child protective custodies, because that person is under duty of care. It's the same thing which is the Ohio, the Good Samaritan Law in Ohio. If you're a medic or first aid responder and you stop to help someone because you're responsible, they can't sue you for helping them. So Ohio has some laws for, the kind of protection. The issue was here is there were so many people joking about it that not everybody took the same level of concern. And we can use that term, is not everybody had the same level of concern where people are saying that, okay, yeah, if you're making fun of it, how serious was it? And so if I was there and I didn't see it, then did somebody else not see the same thing?
And let's make really clear to everybody watching right now, did you have any dealings with Dr. Strauss while you were there? And did you ever notice anything inappropriate?
And this is coming from my personal interaction. In 5 years, he's given me numerous exams to the point that I was naked in the room. I've had, one time I had an infection, and I had to, he had to, whatever you want to call it, examine me. I didn't feel anything inappropriate.
It was just like a regular doc, just like a normal doctor. I mean, I've
right.
When we go through the physical or whatnot, when I went in the Air Force, there was the doctor there, and he also had a nurse next to him. So it was just, it was
right.
just an exam.
And so here's the thing. I've come off a ship on deployment where I've had corpsmen, have given me a swab. Basically, when we came out of the field in Thailand, when he came out of the field in Australia, they give a welfare check, and they basically would slide a swab inside your penis and do a culture. And
ouch.
And so if you're saying to me, did he do anything of that nature while I was at Ohio State? The answer is no. So part of the other debate in this narrative has been, did he treat everybody equally? And we're saying is, look, Jimmy was there for 8 years. There's roughly 40 people on the team. So far, 5 to 6 have come forward. Out of, if you take a look at, at the level at 8 years, 5 or 6 people come forward. Is that more of an anecdotal representation or a pattern of abuse? And I don't know. I don't know what that number is.
I mean, how many? Well, since the whole time Jim Jordan was assistant coach there, I mean, how many wrestlers had come through? I mean, I would imagine a couple hundred.
Because we lose about, let's say the term was that you have 10, 12 new guys a year. Probably 150 wrestlers, maybe, over the course of 8 years.
And then he was the doctor for at least 14 different sports, and he was there for 20 years. You would think that there may be thousands of people that could come forward.
Right. Now, I'm not trying to minimize the 5 that are coming out and making the accusation. I'm not trying to minimize their plight, but what I'm trying to say is that there's a small very small fraction of people in there that have been affected that very possible nobody knew about it.
Right. And here's the thing. If you're going to criticize, let's put this in perspective. If you're going to criticize Jim Jordan for not knowing, there's 31 other varsity sports at Ohio State, minus football. So there's, roughly 30 sports. Doc Strauss, had contact with, 12 to 15 of them. Are you going to give the same level of, you're going to give the other 15 assistant coaches the same level of measurement in a scenario that they didn't do anything about it either? Are you going to give, let's say, give you an example. Are you going to give Russ Rogers, who was the track coach, and Brock, his assistant, are you going to give him the same level of scrutiny? They had athletes as well. Are you going to give them the same level of scrutiny that you're giving Jimmy? Because, all those other sports, they had assistant coaches.
Well, I was going to ask you, how many assistant coaches do you remember having?
Well, when I was there at Ohio State, this is the staff that we had. We had, and this didn't change much for the years that I was there. Well, it changed a little bit. Russ Ellickson was my head coach. Jimmy Jordan was my assistant, and the grad assistant was Mark Coleman. Then we had Wes Audsley was the, I don't know, we want to call it director of wrestling. And then my senior year, the grad assistant, we also had Mark Black, who was there. Then my senior year, Ken Ramsey became one of the assistant coaches because Mark Black had left. So roughly that was our coaching staff. So we had.
Okay, then I got my only question is, why did this guy that?
Oh, Mike DeSabato?
Yeah, why did Mike DeSabato decide to claim to email Jim Jordan when he could have emailed everybody?
Well, because I think here is the thing that I point out. I don't think, and I posted that video online of Mike, playing. I don't think his intentions.
We're going to show that in a second here.
I don't think his intentions are sincere. I think this has become a punitive expedition towards the university, towards Jim Jordan, and towards some of the parties involved. Now, this does not detract away. Mike DeSabato's actions are two things I want to point out. His actions are not to detract from the actions of others that were affected by Dr. Strauss.
Correct.
Those two things. And number two, what people are misconstruing, which is a big problem, is the actions or the behavior of the people that were going into Larkin's Hall aren't representative of Dr. Strauss. Those two things are completely different. So one of the things is
can you explain that? What was the actions or behavior of the people going into the hall?
Well, Larkin's Hall is where we were having practice. Now, for those not familiar with the story, at the time that I wrestled at Ohio State, up until the wrestling facility was at the Brown Gym at Larkin's Hall, was where the wrestling room was. And that had been there since early 80s. And what they had done is they converted a section of the Brown Gym, which is on the second level, towards the power plant. They had put down 2 wrestling mats and put down safety mats around it. So that was the wrestling room. That was open to other personnel other than wrestling. It wasn't a closed facility. So, and in 1990, in the spring of 1990, and why I want to point this out, we had an outbreak of impetigo. And now, if you're familiar with wrestling is, that's going to happen. And what we found out was there were some people coming in to use the mats in between when the facility managers at that point were cleaning them with antiseptic. And so what it caused is that they were using the mats without permission of the university or scheduled time. And the facility people didn't know it. They went in and, so basically you had the mats, then you wound up, having wrestling practice. And then all of a sudden, you have an outbreak. And that was, so they kind of had to, kind of rescale, told people that you have to schedule it. And as a result, we didn't have as many issues. Now, mind you, the same thing happened at the University of Michigan during kind of the same time when they found out, now Michigan's practice facility is a little bit different, but they also had an outbreak. And during that time, we didn't have some of the antiseptics that you have today, the mat clean. And, I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, basically what we had was, Windex and bleach. I mean,
right. It's gotten a lot better over the years, definitely.
Right. I'm using the Windex because, of my big fat Greek wedding. But
Windex for everything.
But the point that we were trying to come out with was the fact that it was an open campus. And some of the behavior that happened downstairs was, sexually driven. That has nothing to do with Dr. Strauss and his.
So what was it exactly? Were they coming in and
they were coming in and using the showers and watching some of the wrestlers?
And these are people that may not even need to be there.
Oh yeah.
Jeez.
Wow.
And that is one of the issues that was happening is that maybe what you needed to do was restrict access. Now they started to restrict access starting in 91, and there were some people, they would check IDs and, do some of them.
Well, what about the allegation that Jim Jordan had chased those people out of there? Does that?
Yeah, that had happened. No one is denying that. But that doesn't have to do anything with Dr. Strauss. That has nothing to do.
And I think that's what Jim Jordan was actually trying to say, was that he didn't ever chase Dr. Strauss out.
No, and we took.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna get a little confused. So you're saying that there's two completely different stories that are coming out,
but they're conflating it, I think, as one. Okay. So Dr. Strauss, obviously. People had issues with the way he behaved or whatever, what kind of person he was. Maybe he was gay, or maybe it's obvious that he was gay. But then what George is saying here now is that there was also a problem of people that had nothing to do with Dr. Strauss showing up and doing stuff like gawking at the wrestlers and whatnot.
It's out of control.
Wow. So it sounds like they're conflating as one, and it may very well be. So you're saying it's possible that Coach Jimmy Jordan at the time may have chased some strangers out.
Yeah, and I chased, for example, we had, I had gone into the wrestling room one day upstairs. This was, and I had caught two young individuals engaged in a lewd act, and when I was escorting them out of there, the guy kind of became, let's say, I wouldn't say violent is not the word because that's not the right word, but antagonistic.
Antagonistic.
And then I shoved him and, he wound up falling face down and, he wanted to go file, he went and called one of the administrators and I was like, yeah, I did that. He forgot to tell him that he was engaged in a sex act in the room. And that's the point that I was trying to make is that there are, this idea that Dr. Strauss was in the shower, giving people back rubs and washing them down, because that's what it makes it sound like, and that's not true. And here's the other.
Somebody said that he was taking multiple showers per day just so that he could shower with people. Does that sound like something you would have witnessed?
Yeah, we did that, but here's the thing that I pointed out in the article that I said, in a time there are times. I'll give you an example. He did take showers with the athletes. One of the things is that I never saw him aroused in there. Now, if you're going to tell me...
Right. Hey, that's a very, very good point.
If you're going to sit there and tell me, if I'm in the shower with females...
you got to say something else.
I'm sorry. I'm a Marine.
I'm in trouble.
Oh, that'd be tough.
I'm in trouble. I'm like... hey, how you doing?
It's clear as
and so if your argument was that he was gay, and number two, he was in the showers taking, he would be I don't care how you would be aroused and you would show that. He never showed that. So that's what I'm saying is that when people are, giving examples of that. Now, mind you, also, when he was taking a shower, he had examined probably however many people in the exam room. And I'm not saying, was he a predator? He could have been. I don't have enough information on him to say, yes, he was a predator. No, he wasn't a predator. I'm not a part of the judicial process.
But it does make a difference that you actually did get examined by him over the course of 5 years of being there, and that you didn't notice anything that was any different from any other doctor.
And like I said, I've had more intrusive exams in the military.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. We were at 29 Palms.
Oh, okay? I've been there.
And we had to go. We were at the ammo dump, and one of the things that we had to go out with was that we had one of the storage vehicles had some JP5, and we had a JP5 leak that we had to we had to secure, and then afterwards we had to go. I had JP5 all over me. I had it on my camis.
For those that don't know, JP5 is jet fuel.
Jet fuel.
We had corpsmen had to come up with these. I don't know what you call them. They look like they're swabs, and we had to go through a shower, and we had to basically use some kind of. This green, it looked like Crowley detergent.
Hold on, for real? Because I was filling up a unit with JP5, and the truck did something, so he stopped it and started it all at the same time, and it blew up all over. I was covered head to toe in JP5. He told me to go home and get to change.
Well, I think part of it was that we had been guarding ammo.
Oh, and mixture maybe gunpowder.
We had to come back and maybe and some of us did. Some of us crayon eaters are stupid enough to smoke around that. So I think that was. But we had.
Come on! Oh, we're so good with this, and then no, I gotta text him again.
So anyways, when I was in the Air Force, they were renovating our shop, so they moved us out into the hangar. And the hangar is just a big giant place where you can pull aircraft in. Our section of the hangar was probably about 80% of it, and we'd pull in 2 F-16s, 80% of the hangar. 2 F-16s would fit wingtip to wingtip, no problem. The other side of the hangar, where there was a big giant wall, and we couldn't see anything, but we could hear it, was the Marine Corps. And the Marine Corps have these A6s. They look like big, giant, ugly, goldfish-looking aircraft.
Yeah, A6 is pretty awful.
4-seaters. They're the loudest and the slowest thing I've ever seen take off.
Yeah, I don't understand it because they don't even have afterburners.
No. And so they only have 20% of the hangar, right? 20% of the hangar. Mm-hmm. The F-16s are smaller, but the wingspan. We fit 2 in. 80% of the hangar we could fit 2 in. They would squeeze 3 of those A6s angled.
Yeah. Well, because their footprint is ridiculous. The wings stick straight out. They're not swept back.
Right. And then all of a sudden, all day long, all you heard was, ow, man, boom, 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 bang, bang, bang. And I'm like, how do you fix an aircraft with a hammer, my man?
All right, we got him back. All right.
The Marines. The Marines.
All right, we got him back.
Sweet.
Man, you know what, George? I'm convinced now that we are going to. This will be the last time we use Skype. We're going to use a different platform for.
We have tried to use everything, and it's just Skype is one of those things. It's there's just not a whole lot of things out there that are really good. But going back to what we were saying about going back to, let's say, Dr. Strauss, is that. I think people are one of the problems that I think people are need to be made aware of. There's a big difference of what, of Dr. Strauss's actions, that it wasn't, not everybody was being, he wasn't, maybe he singled out certain people on the team. He wasn't doing that with everybody. And that's the point that we were trying to say is, look, maybe, just maybe, that, if I didn't know that some of the things were going on, it's easy to say that, hey, other people might have not known it was going on in the same manner. Because again, you're looking at, people have a tendency to look at their position and not be empathetic of others. And that's why a lot of us that have come forward and say, listen, if you had an adverse interaction with Dr. Strauss, or a good interaction, get a hold of Perkins Coie, tell your story. Don't let this political narrative detract from you telling the truth or telling people how you were treated.
Okay, let's. I 100% agree with that. I think that that's critical, because we're talking about getting to justice if you were actually wronged. And we want to definitely encourage anybody to definitely do that. I wanted to get your comment on the actual statement by Congressman Jordan. And the statement was, Congressman Jordan never saw any abuse, never heard any abuse, and never had any abuse reported to him during his time as coach at Ohio State. It said, that's what the first statement said. An hour later, the office released an updated statement, which, by the way, I think is word for word exactly the same, which Congressman Jordan never saw any abuse, never heard about any abuse, and never had any abuse reported to him during his time as coach at Ohio State. This statement, when asked...
He's not been contacted by investigators about the matter, but will assist them in any way.
Right. But now, that statement that I just read, Mike DeSabato says, is just not true. What is your take on those? Don't! He freeze up on us again?
Is that for real? Did that just happen?
Oh, right when I finished, he froze up on me. All right, this is getting ridiculous. Oh, it was so close. So we need to get him an antenna.
Is he on dial-up?
He must be doing the dial-up, I think. But man, we are so okay. I'm convinced. Somebody said that we should start using Zoom. I think that's it. We're done. I think it was Timothy Schwartz, by the way. Just FYI. Yeah,
I know.
Well, now we know. Here's the thing: we never really had this much trouble with Skype.
I've never had this. But I've never had this trouble with Skype.
All right. Oh, that's you calling him?
That's me calling him. So when we bring him back on, we'll get right to the point, and we'll get right to the details, the nitty-gritty of the stuff.
Wow. Yeah, we're going to have to, because we don't know when we're going to lose him again. But the main thing is with Mike DeSabato saying that is just not true, I wanted to hear if George agrees with Mike or somebody. So here we go. We got George back. Okay.
I don't think that if he's saying it's not true, here's the issue behind it. I was standing right next to Mike. I'm sitting there, standing next to Mike. I'm standing next to some of the other athletes, and I didn't see it. And so for Jimmy Jordan not to see it, it's completely, it's plausible. And here's the thing. There's some of us that, like I said, he went on trips with us. He went on road trips with us. If that was the case, why aren't the athletes that went on road trips saying the same thing? You're saying that it happened at Ohio State. Well, wait a second. One of the athletes, there's an athlete going to come forward that was on the junior world team that Dr. Strauss traveled overseas with, and is going to say, listen, Dr. Strauss never touched him inappropriately or any conduct whatsoever that you would even remotely think is inappropriate or even criminal.
Now, do you think DeSabato, it's possible that maybe this was something that he had going on with the doc, and it was just something that whatever.
Like he was singled out by the doc.
Well, here's the thing.
I'm saying almost in a consensual way.
Well, it could be possible. I mean, like I said, Mike DeSabato had gone to his house. He had gone to, there are times that he had gone to dinner with him at Damon's. Is it possible that
did you ever go to a dinner with Dr. Strauss? Did you ever go to?
I've gone to lunch with him. I've never went to I went to dinner, but then
if you don't mind me asking, what reason would you have to go to lunch with him?
Well, there's a place called the Rathskeller, which was a couple. One day we were just happened to walk in, and he was going over there and eating lunch. The Rathskeller is about 100. It's right behind Larkin's. It's a little. It's a small cafeteria. It's probably the equivalent of.
So you're saying that this wasn't scheduled?
No.
You literally just ran into.
But you're saying dinner was scheduled with.
Yes.
And did he ever receive gifts?
There's a couple times that Dr. Strauss had bought him a couple gifts. I mean, one of them I know was a shirt that he had given to him. So and that's why here's the thing. Is the way that Mike DeSabato is describing the actions of what was going on? No, I don't believe Mike's recollection of or description of events is let's say truthful.
That's a big statement. That's a big problem for him.
And like I said, that's my perception. Now, am I going to say that Dr. Strauss didn't act, adversely with other athletes? Sure. There are athletes that he, maybe interacted with adversely. All I'm saying is that Mike's wording today does not line up with his actions of the past.
And you've known Mike for a long time back then as well.
Yeah, even before college, right? Is what you said at the beginning of the interview. So there's another accuser, Sean Daly, who do you know him personally or no?
No, but I don't know him. I don't know the young man. I've never met him. He came in after I'd graduated.
Yeah, he's only 43. He's only 43.
Well, there's a statement that he said that I'd like to get your comment on because it would apply to you, I would think, or possibly apply to you. It says, I participated with Jimmy and other wrestlers in the locker room talk about Strauss. We all did. It was very common knowledge in the locker room that if you went to Dr. Strauss for anything, you would have to pull your pants down. That was his statement. Did you know about that common knowledge? He's calling it common knowledge. Is that what you believed about Dr. Strauss?
No. I mean, here's the thing. If you're in the locker room, did he? I hit. Rick Berlinski put his elbow through a wall one day because he did the same thing. He didn't have to go there. I just think that, like I said, different people are misconstruing locker room talk with actual events, and I can't. And it's hard to discern because we say stuff in the locker room. It's like being in the barracks. Now, I understand that, you're a Harrier mechanic and you might not understand this, but there's a group of Marines that actually fight and drink every day and carry and hump.
Yeah,
I know that's foreign language.
Just to let everybody know, humping is a hike.
Yeah,
it's not humping sexually.
And we ran into them in the bars, and we us Air Force members at about 9:30 at night. We had to leave. We were not allowed to hang out with those dudes. It was no good.
Right. And here's the thing. The Air Force is like civil service. So, and basically, the Coast Guard is like lifeguards with guns.
Oh, wow.
So,
can I get your take on the Army?
Well, there's nothing wrong with the Army. There's nothing wrong. But I mean, and the Navy is, the Navy is, what do you call it? The Navy is just the Navy. But here's the thing. If you take a look at some of the things that I've said to my fellow Marines in the barracks, while I'm cleaning the pig, you couldn't play that on this. I mean, you would have an NSA investigation going, what the heck,
They need to see a psychologist.
Yeah, and it'd be like, wait a second, we giving these guys fully, there are times that I was cleaning, like I said, there's times I was cleaning an M60, and if you saw some of the conversations we had with some of the guys, they'd be like, we're giving these guys fully automatic weapons.
Oh, gosh.
That might not be the best idea. But so I take, and this is what I want to say to the people that are listening. If you have to take a look at context. If people were, if what people were saying in the locker room, what is it? Are you joking about it? Are you being serious? Are you saying that it was level to the level of abuse? And by the way, one of the people complained about. There's in one of the videos that they produced was called the Scarlet X. There's a gentleman that said that he had heartburn and was complaining of stomach pains, and Dr. Strauss wanted to basically examine him. Well, let me put it to you in terms. As a coach, and like I said, I coached for Russ for a few years. Those are the signs of abdominal hernia.
Ooh.
Now,
okay.
And nobody is, and here's the thing. This is a very emotionally charged issue. No one is nowhere. And I'm saying this as a coach and as a parent and as an athlete and all those. Nowhere in this do we want to minimize the effect that it had on the athletes. No one do we want to sit there and victim shame, because that's not the right thing.
Right.
If you were injured, damaged, hurt, go to the proper authorities. There, Perkins Coie, has a number. I posted it on my wall. And if you want, I can share it with you. Have them go out there and contact them.
But here's what's frustrating to me, though. We're 25, 30 years away from that.
Right.
And the only reason why this comes out is because Jim Jordan announces he's going to run for Speaker of the House.
And some people are saying that the motivation might be because of how he's really hammering the Russiagate hoax investigation too. But it could be one.
What about the clothing line?
Oh God! Well, we'll get to that in a second.
Sorry, I jumped in the shark again.
I want to reiterate what you just said. It sounds ridiculous. It sounds abusive to hear that a doctor says, "Oh, you have heartburn? Well, drop trowel." Right?
Right?
That sounds like this guy is clearly abusing. But what you just said is that is a symptom of something where you may actually have to investigate for a hernia.
Well, and this was in high school, though. But even in high school, we had two teachers, and they both subsequently died of AIDS. So we were probably true in saying that they were gay. But we had two teachers that were clearly, to us kids, gay. And we talked about them all the time.
You did the locker room talk.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and that kind of stuff can obviously be conflated over the years.
And I don't know anybody that they ever had affected to or touched or anything like that. And I not me, but we talked about them all the time.
Well, and here's the thing. And if your listeners or anybody was affected, I'm going to give you the lead investigator for. Please share this far and wide, because again, we want the truth. Us as former athletes and people involved with the Ohio State University, we want the truth to come. There's a lead investigator by the name of Marcus Funk. His phone number is 303-291-2371. That's 303-291-2371. And the email you can reach any of the investigators and tell your story is osu@perkinscoie.com. And it's PERKINSCOIE.com. If you email them and say, hey, I have a story to tell, I want to come forward, please share that, because and regardless whether it's a positive story or negative story, all they're doing is looking for people to tell the truth.
Brian is such an awesome producer here. He just put the number and the email address right up on the screen as you said that. So it's up there right now for people to see. That's awesome.
Yeah, and see, none of us that are involved in this, both negative or positively, want it to look like it's a cover-up, or that where people are not trying,
or they're trying to just cover up for Jim Jordan because they're conservative and they want to see him be the next speaker. And it's really not about that. I mean, and one thing I didn't say at the beginning of the show that I want to reiterate right now is that we've been founded on getting to the truth. So wherever the truth may be, that's where we're going to get to. So
and this idea that, and I want to squash one rumor. Perkins Coie has 1,160 lawyers.
Okay.
Now, that's a battalion and a half of Marines, to give you an example. Or almost, that's almost 2 battalions of Marines. That, if one of them went to work at, one of Elias had gone and worked at the Obama White House, that's a rounding error.
Now,
so for them to be, for them to divulge confidential information to a party or a press or any of them is just, it's out of the question. Number two, and I want to say this, they have the narrative that the press is coming out with is not what is being said by some of the athletes, because I've talked to them. I've had people reach out to me that I haven't talked to in years and saying, hey, what should I do? And because going back to this, when I graduated, I was the oldest student athlete at Ohio State in 92 and 93. I'm 27 years old. I'm competing, and a lot of the guys are sitting there, they would approach me with certain problems that they had because I'm the old guy in the room.
You're like the big brother. Yeah.
Well, when I went to Purdue, I was 27, was right out of the Air Force. And so the kids that we hung out with, I mean, the 19, 20, 21, and my brother, same thing, and they actually called him old man.
What years were you at Purdue?
99 through 2003.
Oh, we block him again. Oh my goodness, we are so using Zoom next time. One thing I want to, well, you know what? While we're waiting for him, do you want to play the Mike DeSabato video? While we're waiting for him to get back. Now, this is a scene from. Oh, do you need to
set it up real quick? Let everybody know.
So apparently, and I don't know when this is. We're going to ask George. George is our source for this video. He did not video it himself, but he did actually.
Here, let me run it real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Before he comes on.
So this is in a bus going to. Oh, yeah. Where's our audio? All right, so that right there, hold on, don't play it again because I want to get a good look at the guy with the white shirt right there is Mike DeSabato. He looks older, so I'm assuming he's probably coaching or something maybe. Oh, he's coming back.
Okay. All right, perfect. I just played that video, Mike.
Oh, well, play it again because they need to hear the audio. So we're going to play the video real quick that you sent us. And it is Mike DeSabato on a bus. You said it was to nationals or, on their way to nationals.
Right.
So I'm assuming there's probably wrestlers in this bus.
No, this is the person. It's Bone Thugs and Harmony is on the bus.
Okay.
Oh, this is just him partying with them.
Oh, he's not with wrestlers?
No.
So who is he? Like normally when you tell a joke, it's a reference that other people would know. You saying he's on a bus with Bone?
Yeah, and then there's a couple other. There is one wrestler on the bus, but I'm not going to mention his name because he's still kind of.
Well, but so the joke was a reference that wrestler would know because I'm assuming he wrestled for Ohio State. Okay, so we're going to play it real quick and go ahead and. So what you heard there was Mike DeSabato saying Doc Strauss is in the house, and he literally pulls his pants down in reference to Doc Strauss apparently wanting you to drop trowel when you see him, I guess. And he was obviously making a big joke about it. I assumed it was a bus that was on its way to a wrestling tournament or something because
it is. It was on the way to nationals. But again, here's the thing. does that look like the actions of somebody that's a victim in this whole scenario?
Not really. Not to me.
And I'm not saying, and here's the thing, again, we go back to, I'm not challenging the veracity of anybody else's actions that's involved in it, not Dinasha Yus, not Dave Range or anybody else. I'm strictly using this to show that Mike DeSabato's actions aren't pure and
I need more detail on the video real quick, just for context. Do you know how old it is? Because looking at Mike in that video, he looks recent.
It is this year. It was taken in 2018.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Hold on. Mike Strauss has been dead for 13 years.
Mike DeSabato.
Dr. Strauss has been dead for 13 years. So why would you joke about Dr. Strauss in the house?
Well, because, and again, this is why people that are
creepy.
This is why people that are involved or that have been in this lawsuit, or that are having contact with Mike, are saying to him, "Hey, look, your actions aren't genuine."
Right.
And we're not saying that for the others. We're just saying with Mike, and Mike's actions aren't genuine, because are you going to joke about something like Doc Strauss is going to be?
It's it would be exactly the exact same scenario. It would be like me today joking about, and the teachers' names are Mr. Shelley and Mr. Mary, joking about them two in the house. And then all of a sudden come and then me saying that I was assaulted, and other people saying, and in all reality, I never was, and we made fun of them behind their backs.
Right. And this is where this, when we start talking about things, where this narrative starts to fall apart, starts to, this is a punitive expedition. This isn't about the truth. This is about taking a look at things from from somebody else's perspective. And this is why all of us involved are saying this. Quit trying this in the political arena. Take that out of the political arena. Make sure that your voice is heard, number one. Number two, if you were a victim or you had inappropriate contact, get a hold of Perkins Coie, get a hold of Marcus. Tell your story. Please tell your story.
Right.
Good or bad. And because what Mike has done is he's poisoned the well for people to come forward.
Agreed.
And if you were honestly hurt, look, me personally, I want no monetary compensation from anyone. I pay my own bills. I mean, every once in a while, I wouldn't mind having an MRE with barbecues and meatballs and barbecue sauce.
Those meatballs were wicked.
Oh my! The chocolate nut cake. I wrestled a guy in 29 Palms, took him down, and submitted him because he tried to take my meatballs and barbecue sauce.
You got to jump for that.
Yeah, I think you had grounds for that, but
I mean, and that now in the Air Force, I don't know how to explain it. There's the MRE is these meals they give guys in the field. I know you guys had like steak dinners and lobster and stuff like that. And
butler.
We only had in basic training, not boot camp, basic training. It was only six weeks long, and they actually one day they shipped us the MREs that you guys got. And so we tried out one, and I got the meatballs and with the barbecue, and it was wicked. But
Most people complain about the MREs. I actually was one of those rare guys that actually liked. They would give me whatever they had that they didn't like because I was the only one that would eat it.
It was during the obstacle course where you were forced to attempt each obstacle.
Right. Well, here's the thing that I point out is like, look, one of the issues that you have, and again, let's be honest with this. And I want to use you as an example. This is a prime example. All three of us are considered veterans. Me and Jarhead we were both Marines. Our experience in the Marine Corps, even though we went to Marine Corps basic training, my experience with the Marine Corps can be completely different than his experience in the Marine Corps. He's a Harrier mechanic. His experience with being in formation and being on the flight line, even both of us are Marines, we have a different experience of the core.
Right.
So that and that is what one of the things that some of us that are coming forward and trying to say is, look, we understand that maybe you had adverse conditions of your experience at Ohio State and with Dr. Strauss, but to say that everybody knew about it or was complicit or that it was white.
Right. I didn't know that you ate crayons, like flat out. I did not know that.
You know what? I understand that. But again, you guys snorted jet fuel. So,
well, that's true.
Let me tell you, I really got used to the smell of jet fuel.
I got used to it.
I enjoyed it.
What did you do? What did you do in the Air Force?
I was an aircraft machinist. I would come out to the flight line and I would fix every mess up.
Yeah.
Because 90% of the damage done to aircraft is done by mechanics.
Right. Well, real quick, before we lose you again, have you talked to Mike recently?
I've gotten some texts from him, which were very adverse. And and part of those have been, rather abusive.
Really?
Because I think what's happening now is, people are starting.
Did he do that because he heard that you came out in support of Jim or against? Okay.
Yeah, and part of it is I have, and like I said, what I've told you earlier, I have more material that I'm going to send out, and that is going to, kind of dilute his story of, that his attempt to go forward on this is not as honorable as he makes it out to be.
And so now something else that came out that I guess that you were telling Carrie about that I'm now shocked about. Carrie asked me to download a video real quick. It looked like a commercial or whatever. Had to do with a company being put together and making some phenomenal wrestling shoes. And it happens to be Jim Jordan's Jordan's brother.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And there's something to do with, I had no idea. There's something to do with that in DeSantos.
Yeah, and a lot of people need to learn about this because it really is a big, it may be a big factor in all of this.
Well, part of this is that, here's the thing that I don't understand the energy behind this. Does Mike think that if he attacks everybody that people are going to be more willing to deal with him? And the argument with Rudis has been that that Jeff Jordan acted, which is Jim Jordan's brother, acted inappropriately towards him. And that's just not the case.
Well, let me give some background to our listeners. So Mike DeSabato, who is the accuser, the main one in this case, who's been all over CNN and everything, he is the founder and CEO of the now defunct, as far as I could tell, Cage Fighter Apparel Company, which most people have seen or heard of it, at least, where people are wearing the shirts that say Cage Fighter across them. That's the name of the company. That was founded by Mike DeSabato, and he had all these lucrative contracts with various teams across the country. I think one of his first ones was a big contract with Ohio State. I know when I was coaching at LaSalle High School, one of the first years that we were there, all of our gear was Cage Fighter gear. It was like the very first year I was there. And then we didn't do business with them after that because of, to be honest with you, I didn't work the contract out, so I'm not sure the exact details of why we didn't, but there was definitely problems with the company. And now you have Jeff Jordan, who is very entrenched with all of Ohio wrestling community, and is beloved by everybody in the Ohio wrestling community that I know of. And he is heavily involved. Is he the founder? I'm not sure what exactly his involvement is, but he seems like he's extremely heavily involved in a new company called Rudis. I think Tommy Rollins is heavily involved in it.
Tommy Rollins is involved, Kyle Snyder and some of the other guys are involved in it. And Rudis is a fine company. And Cage Fighter was a fine company until Mike started, crossing certain lines. And and I'm going to point something out too, and then take this for what it's worth. Mike profited from Penn State. If you're going to be, let's be honest about this. If you're going to sit there and be, you're a champion of social justice, you licensed Joe Paterno. You had a bobblehead. You had a Joe Pa doll, and you're going to tell me that you profited off of him and, knowing of the sex scandal, you profited off of Penn State, but now you're upset at Ohio State. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I was going to. Well, I mean, did he know about it when he was doing the business with him? And I guess, has he done anything to help the victims of that afterwards?
Not that I know of.
Now, from what you know of Mike, and I wish I knew him personally, because I would just be able to explain to people more about his temperament and all that. Does he seem like a vindictive type of person?
Yes.
That would, yeah,
yeah, and that's one of the things that is hurting this whole process, is that one of the things that we're trying to say is, listen, we want the victims to come forward, and part of the group is upset at Mike, because now they feel that their view, stance, or whatever is going to get politicized. And if that happens, then you're not going to get the truth come out. The truth is not going to come out, and that hurts everybody involved in this process.
Yeah, I would have definitely recommended to Mike, if I were, a close friend of his, to leave the Jordans out of this, leave Rudis out of this, leave Congressman Jordan out of this, because it just seems like an extreme stretch to me to try to say that Jim Jordan is a big villain here because he was one of several assistant coaches at that time who must have known about this abuse.
It doesn't pass the smell test.
Yeah,
right.
It looks like he's trying too hard to drag him down with all this, and what I cannot believe that he doesn't know is the amount of support he has from people that have known him their entire lives. Not just Jim Jordan, but Jeff Jordan, the whole Jordan family. They're almost like royalty in Ohio.
I give you an example. I wrote I did a piece for The Hill, and I did sitting there talking about it. I hurt my knee one year, and I was at OSU at the OSU medical clinic, and it was a little bit. The injury was a little bit more serious than I thought, and whatever. But Jimmy had came over to check on me. He helped carry me. I was leaving. He helped carry me, get me to my car.
Oh, wow.
Now, this is a 150, 160-pound coach helping a 235-pound heavyweight.
Dude.
For him to help me get me to my car. And again, I say that my experiences are different, but he helped me get me to my car, made sure that I got home. For him to do that, and to know and not do something about it, not go to it doesn't add up.
Right. It's not part of his makeup, not part of his MO, and just that's
out of character.
Right. And that story about his character right there, it falls in line with everything we've ever known about Jim Jordan.
And take the politics, and let's be honest, take the politics out of there. If you take a look and you're telling me, because here's one of the other issues, and I know that your brother, he's a little younger, but when we found out about Dennis Hastert, none of the people in the wrestling community jumped to go behind him and say, hey, he's a good guy. And he was, the Speaker of the House that was accused of molesting. People didn't come to his rescue.
Right.
Why? Because, the character was a little bit different. We're saying this about somebody else, and I don't want this to be, well, this is favorite. No, right is right and wrong is wrong. Jimmy didn't know the extent of everything that was going on. And part of it too is that, and I'll say this, as some of it said, as wrestlers, some of the people are saying, well, wait a second, guys, you guys are wrestlers. Why didn't you say anything about it? Well, part of it is, there's a level of embarrassment, a level of, this couldn't happen to me, so.
Well, it might also fall in line with the same facts that are out there that men do not report spousal abuse. Mm. Men just don't report the fact that their wives are abusing them. That's really high.
Right. Well, and think about this. I mean, think about this. There are rapes in the military and that are male-on-male rapes, how many of them are getting reported? Not as many as you think, because the argument is that they're more willing than their female counterparts. And so I think that in saying this, at the end of the day, we have to let the truth be told, take the politics out of it, take the posturing and take the media narrative out. Because again, if you're going to hurt a good person, which is Jimmy Jordan, just because political affiliation, what does that get you the next time? You're going to wind up, and this is the second part, you're going to wind up having people that are less likely to come forward in future scenarios if you do this.
Well, and I'm not trying to make it political, but the Democrat Party right now has thrown around rape, Me Too, so much, so often, whether it be a Nazi, racist, bigot, sexist, homophobe. It has been so bad that
it's the boy who cried wolf.
Right, that nobody believes them anymore, and they've done. I think that this party has done more damage to victims who are truly victimized.
Right.
And now nobody believes me anymore. I know they don't believe me because of what this party has done by politicizing this.
Let's give you a prime example, and let's use this one. Let's use a political scandal that hits close to home for everybody. Chandra Levy. Now, Chandra Levy was a political aide in Washington, D.C. that was murdered. For years, the implication was a congressman that she worked for was, the implication was, he did it. Come to find out down the road after finding DNA evidence and that he was exonerated, but the person, the perpetrator was a Latino that had just, happened to however you want to do it, prosecute a act of violence. But the implication was that they tried to tie the congressman she worked for in this. And, that is one of the problems.
So it ends up hurting the actual investigation. So it ends up being a crime of opportunity, and maybe they weren't even looking in that direction because they were so sure that it was this congressman involvement.
Right. And, she, and if you read up on her, on Chandra Levy, and like I said, she was, she worked for the federal, the Bureau of Prisons, but the person that killed her was an illegal alien, and that has nothing to do with that debate. I don't want to, I'm not trying to.
You're just saying that it was a crime of opportunity from somebody that nobody was even looking at.
Yeah, you're not talking about the aide that died in Joe Scarborough's office.
No.
Okay.
And so, but there was Gary Condit was,
Oh, yeah.
And again, this was, that Levy's aunt had called the police and told him that Chandra had confided in her about the affair. They were having an affair. And you pull up the story. There was everybody, turned this political, and it took years to get to the truth.
So it very well may be that Dr. Strauss has totally been abusing the heck out of all these athletes, and you got somebody like Mike DeSabato, whose antics and prior character, presentation, and at the end of the day, he may have actually hurt justice in this case because he ends up trying to turn it into a witch hunt to satisfy his own need for vendetta against the Jordan family, is what it seems like.
And that is one of the issues that has came up, and this is why all of us involved in this and have said this. We want justice to be served. We want the judicial process.
And Jordan said that too in an interview on Fox News just the other day. He said, "Hey, justice needs to be served if it happens." I have one more question for you. Since you know Mike DeSabato personally, do you know of, or did you ever get an indication of his politics? Is he a liberal? And just to let you know, in case you didn't know, his Twitter account, the very first thing in his bio actually says social justice activist, which I thought was very strange because I never really caught any major political leanings from him one way or another. But you know him personally. Was he involved in politics?
Him more as I'm not going to say he was, he's not a Republican, he's not a Democrat, he's, more of a, like I said, libertarian. I don't even call libertarian, but more on he leans, to the left. My personal views, I'm to the right of Genghis Khan. And,
wow.
Well, that's the Marine Corps. I mean, I'm like, if you can't kill it or and burn it with fire, then, that's not somebody else's problem. But again, I don't know if this is political driven. And again, I don't, my thing is I don't want to be political driven because again, if you have people there's somebody out there, I want to say this in Barney style. There's an athlete out there. I don't know his name. I don't know who he is. But let's just call him, OSU student athlete, number one, that probably has a piece of evidence, be it a physical piece of evidence, a material piece, something that could tie Dr. Strauss, whatever his behavior is, to a criminal act. If he is afraid to come forward because of retribution and to become in the spotlight and be used as a political pawn or a pawn because of the process, and that could be the nail in the coffin to settle this case, and he's not coming forward because he's afraid, what does that do to the process?
Absolutely. There's a fundamental breakdown, and we've got you called him Mike
DeSabato.
DeSabato. Yeah, we got Mike he's the number one guy causing problems.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why all of us have said we stand by Jimmy, we stand by with Mark Coleman and all of them, and Mark has said, hey, listen, I don't think people knew the severity, and that's what we're saying. Impropriety, maybe, is it criminal? We don't know, but we can't find out if everybody doesn't come forward and tell their story.
Right.
Well, so you have a show that comes on tonight at 9?
Yep.
Does it just come on your Facebook Live, or do you have an actual channel? Or
we have it on Veteran Radio Syndicate on our page. It's called the Bear News, and it comes on, and we're on every night from 9 to 11. We've had, we cover current events. I'm going to cover this story a little bit tonight.
Is it best to follow you through your Facebook page, or is there a separate page for that?
There's a separate page. It will go live onto my George Pardo's page, but if you look up the Bear News online, it's going to be on there. It's also going to be on Veteran Radio, Vet Radio Syndicate. You can go on there and listen to it live. And we're going to cover more of this. And I think one of the things that I want that we're going to bring up, because I've only got a few minutes left.
Yep.
What's important is for people to hear the truth, to make sure that if you were affected, both adversely or positive from Dr. Strauss, come forward, tell your story, contact Perkins Coie, reach out to some of the investigators. You can call. I've responded to about 20 different private messages from different people. If you need to, you can contact me. But please, do not let one person's actions dictate you coming forward and telling the truth and being heard, because like I said, there's probably a student athlete out there that might have that one piece of evidence, or have some information that the investigators really need to hear, and he's not coming forward, or she's not coming forward. Maybe there's a trainer that had some physical logs or whatever. we don't know if they don't come forward. And in the process of trying it in, public opinion and, being punitive, that hurts everybody involved.
All right, George Pardos. Follow him on Facebook.com/GPardos and watch his show tonight at 9, right? 9 o'clock.
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much for being on, and we will be in
contact. And thank you again, Semper Fi, brother. And,
all right, Semper Fi.
I don't know what you guys saying. What do you guys say in the Air Force? Tea time, margaritas. What do you guys say? I mean, what is it?
Yes, sir. No, sir. Take care. Peace out.
You don't have like a hua, ha, hoorah.
No, that's
none of that?
Army. I think.
No, man. Come on. We stay in the hotels and we fly around. We expect us to.
Brian plays along. He does that rope-a-dope.
Hey, but you know what they get? You know what the makeup is? We got the best uniforms in the world. They give the Air Force tactical nuclear weapons. I don't know
times.
If that's, I mean, there's it's a trade-off.
Right.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you guys you guys have been in the class act. Thank you again, and we'll talk next time.
All right, Semper Fi, Devil Dog. All right, awesome.
Wow. That's
well,
all
I think we got some great info from him. And that's why we went longer with him than any other guest, and it's because this is a guy who knew for 5 years. He was red shirt.
Yeah.
5 years.
So explain to
wrestled
me what red
under
shirt
Jim.
means.
Oh, okay. So a lot of people who know anything about college football or college sports in general, basketball too, you get 4 years of eligibility. So it's a lot like high school, right? And that's it. 4 years in a sport. But the coach may strategically figure out based on what 4 years does he have with these particular athletes. He may strategically decide that it'd be best if I could hold Brian out for 1 year and make his 4 years be the next 4 years, not this 4 years. That's called redshirting him. So he's still on the team. He's redshirt. He does not compete that entire year that he's redshirt.
But you practice the whole time.
And you save that year of eligibility. So the subsequent 4 years I would have Brian. In the case of George, he was redshirt 1 year, which means he had 5 years with Congressman Jim Jordan.
Man.
Knows him very well, clearly. And he for 2 years was on the team with Mike DeSabato, who is the main focus of the accusations against the congressman and whatnot, and is a very good character witness.
Apparently. So who does Mike DeSabato's coach for now?
Oh, I would say he's just a parent. He has kids and I don't know if he has grandkids at this point, but he has kids and lots and lots and lots of nephews who all wrestle because I see DeSabato's on the state level brackets. These would either be children or nephews of Mike DeSabato.
Okay.
And so it's very possible I walked right by him a dozen times at tournaments. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
There is no doubt I walked by this guy a dozen times at least over the years of coaching, not realizing who it was or anything like that. But it's interesting because had I known, I might have said, hey, what's going on? What's up, brah? What's going on? But one thing we did not get into with the interview that I think Brian's about to play is you can't discount the fact that what we're dealing with here is a feud of a vindictive man.
Yeah.
Brian, we were all young men, excited, easily excitable men who feel like they've been wronged, and vengeance can be a serious thing.
You don't have to tell me about that. I did a whole scope on that, folks.
I did to get even.
I did a whole scope on that for my entire decade of my 20s.
And now that we're older and we have children,
yeah.
We've kind of moved beyond that. But apparently, based on my observations, a lot of testimony that some people don't grow out of it. And apparently, it looks like it's possible that Mike DeSabato did not grow out of it. And so he seems to have driven his cage fighter in the ground. It's been taken over by the company that we have a commercial for. They're not paying us for this. We wanted you to see what this company was. And so, yeah, here it is.
For us, making the shoe is it's do or die. It's game
So you got a shoe.
It's always down to the wire. It's always chaotic. It's always a challenge. This was even worse.
You know, in building a premium brand, I just don't want to do things wrong. If things are wrong, then they just need to stop and redo them and do them right?
I mean, no one's going to have a box like that, right? No one's going to have a shoe like this.
So we were hoping that the shoe would be in time for the World Cup, but turns out it wasn't. This will be the first time that anybody has seen a full Rudis shoe, the Snyder shoe, in competition mode.
Shipped it to his hotel in New York City. The day of the event, opened up the box. Wrong singlets were in the box.
We have spent
That's Jeff
2
Jordan.
years on trying to develop the best shoe on the market.
I mean, the developmental name on Kyle's signature model was Ferrari. We were building the Ferrari of wrestling shoes.
We revised the last probably 3 times at a point when we thought we were done with the last.
No other brand that I know of in wrestling would do what we're doing, can do what we're doing. They don't think the way we think. They don't breathe the way we breathe.
I mean, today's crucial. Anything we want to post of Kyle moving forward, it'll come from today.
People say seeing is believing. I think in this scenario, feeling is believing. People just gotta feel it.
So he ended up getting a shoe for the competition, and it's his own signature shoe, and they had to make it happen. But so that's Rudis, and you saw Jeff Jordan, which was Jim Jordan's brother, in there. He's heavily involved in this. Tommy Rollins is heavily involved in this, and Tommy, which, got a lot of information for you guys. Tommy Rollins was working in Cage Fighter.
No.
And Tommy Rollins is a legend in Ohio wrestling. He wrestled for Ohio State.
I've never heard the name before, but I've seen his picture. I know that picture of that guy.
So Tommy was working with Mike DeSabato in the Cage Fighter business. And Tommy is one of these guys who has impeccable character. When they got fired from they lost their OSU contract. This is his alma mater.
How do you get fired? How do you lose that contract?
When this is your alma mater, this was an insane embarrassment to Tommy. Insane, hugely embarrassed. And so Tommy said, "Okay, exit strategy time. It's exit strategy time." So Tommy was a big part of the founding of Rudis. And what do you think that's going to do to the mental state of Mike DeSabato? Here's a guy, you're dealing with the legend, right. Tommy Rollins. He's working with you on Cage Fighter. You're going to make this happen. You got these contracts, big contracts across the country. Ohio State's a big one. And you do some things that ends up getting you to lose the contract, which causes you to lose your partner. I mean, from what I heard, they were actual bona fide partners in this. You lose your legend partner. He goes on, you don't just lose all this, but he goes on to found another business that directly competes with Cage Fighter.
And it happens to be Jim Jordan's brother.
Yeah, this is and by the way, this is the nail in the coffin. Rudis is blowing up. It is exploding.
I feel like buying something from them.
Yeah, they are really doing well. And the fact that you said that, you are going to get a call from Mike DeSabato's lawyers.
Oh, because I want to buy something.
Okay, I got a little insider information for you if you want to hear it. There is I'll keep the names out of it so we don't get in trouble. But there is a team in Cincinnati that is very well known.
Okay.
And being in the coaching business for so many years, it's well known amongst all of my colleagues that if you ever had a chance to be the head coach of this school, this is life-changing.
Okay.
This is career-changing. This is it, if you could become the head coach. Well, the legend coach himself, who'd been coaching there forever, decided to resign.
Okay.
It caused this mad dash of all the coaches to try to become the head coach of this place.
Man.
Because like I said, this was it, man. If you can get the head coaching job at this place. And turns out one of the guys that was going for it was a coach of another big school who had ordered cage fighter gear. Okay?
Okay.
He had to wait till almost the end of the season to get him. I think it was pretty much the end of the season to get the gear. When it finally arrived, and this was after lots of angry phone calls, where's my gear? The money had already been sent.
Oh, no.
He gets the gear, and it was half put together, falling apart, really poor quality. Like
so you know this story for a fact.
It was told to me by the person I'm talking about.
Oh, man.
So the stuff's falling apart. The coach, who was coaching at a different school, was vying for the head coaching job of the school that I was telling you about that everybody wants.
The crown jewel.
He had posted on Facebook his experience with Cage Fighter and how he received it really late. It was a very unpleasant experience, and when he got it, the stuff was falling apart. Mike DeSabato called up the school that he was trying to get not the school he's from currently, but the one that he's going for. Called him up and said, I am suing this guy that's going for this coaching job at your school. So he's trying to get this coaching job at the school. Mike DeSabato said, ha, 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 you better think twice. I'm going to sue everybody. I'm going to sue everybody that ever knew him.
You can sue. You could sue all day, and that's a problem in America, but you can sue all day long.
So he did this for the sole purpose, not to actually sue him, but to get even with him for talking bad about him on Facebook by scaring his future employer into not hiring him. There's a happy ending, though. The guy I'm talking about did get hired at the school that everybody wanted to coach at.
Good.
So now he's the coach there, and by the way, he's extremely successful in the few years that he's been there. And so he's not going anywhere anytime soon. He's probably going to end up retiring from there. And so it ended up being a happy ending. But that's what kind of person Mike DeSabato is. Did you hear about what he did with Ray Mendoza, U.S. Marine Corps veteran?
Why does that sound familiar? Ray Mendoza.
Ray Mendoza was a Marine Corps veteran who was killed in the War on Terror. He had graduated from Ohio State wrestling alma mater.
Okay.
Mike DeSabato headed up a fundraiser for him because he was his
okay.
He was his teammate.
Don't tell me this is the one Jim Jordan said.
Yes, Jim Jordan said that this Marine had a fundraiser. This late Marine, this fallen Marine, had a fundraiser headed up by Mike DeSabato. Turns out, after they raised a ton of money, when they started going after the widow was like, "Well, where's this money going?" And also there were beneficiaries. There were veteran organizations that were told that they were going to be the beneficiaries of this fundraiser. When they went to go after the money, they found out that he never filed it as a nonprofit. And so nobody ever knows. No, to this day, nobody knows what happened to that money.
Oh, man. So they were just money in the wind.
The widow did a cease and desist against Mike DeSabato because he was using
her husband's death,
her husband's name, image, and all the above to try to get as much money as possible. So she had to do a cease and desist against him to stop using her fallen husband, her late husband's name and picture.
This guy can't become more despicable. Oh, my goodness.
There's another story that I know about Mike DeSabato that is so bad and so evil, and I'm working on getting permission to tell you guys. I'm working. It's so bad.
Is it true?
The person that told this to me heard it from the horse's mouth and would absolutely not lie to me. Has no reason to lie to me. He's not being sued by Mike DeSabato. Mike DeSabato's not going after him. Well, he doesn't. I don't even think that he knows the story. But I absolutely trust in this guy. No way would he lie to me about this, and it is so evil that I'm working on getting permission to tell this story. In fact, I'm going to try to get exclusive interview with all those involved. But it puts the Mendoza thing to shame. It's ridiculous. So
wow.
That being said, here's the thing. Mike DeSabato may have actually been abused.
Yeah.
Although he did have dinners with Strauss, and he received gifts from him, and this is just according to our previous George.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
George,
you can be in an abusive relationship and not realize or not have the wherewithal to get out of it until something happens, something changes, and then when he looks back on these things that he did, maybe he's got a lot of hate and a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, but whatever the case may be, they were adults at the time, and if he was abused, come out and say so, but man, don't make this political. This is the worst political thing. This is the worst thing you could have done for the victims, if there are victims. For the victims, this is the worst thing that he could have done to just damaging the case, just damaging it altogether. And just like the Democrats do, they politicize every single thing. Liberals, psychos, nut jobs. This whole Me Too movement, victimization. Democrats love victimization. They love to.
Do you have anything about the Trump speech, the rally, where he mocked the Me Too movement? I can make a blurb about it.
Yeah, go ahead. I don't have it now.
So Donald Trump kind of made mention of the Me Too movement when referring to Pocahontas.
Right.
And said that
he apologized to Pocahontas.
Did he?
No, the real one. For saying that she was.
Oh, God. Okay, so he was at a rally and he decided to talk about Elizabeth Warren, who is of.
She's got high cheekbones.
She appears to be Caucasian, but we're not judging anybody for the skin color. But when you earn special privileges for being of Native American descent, and that turns out to not be entirely true, we can definitely bring that up.
Right.
So it's she gets made fun of for this questionable background. So Trump decides during this rally that he's going to say that if he's assuming that she's probably going to be the nominee for the Democrat Party for president in 2020.
Really? I thought Hillary was running.
Oh, my God. They will not allow that. The Democrat Party will not allow
They've already said that Bill Clinton is poison. He's volatile. They can't even have him around anywhere.
I wonder if he changes his name, he can run again. So Elizabeth Warren, he's predicting here that she may run against him in 2020. That being said, he said, you know what I'm going to do when I am debating her? I'm going to pull out one of those test kits for DNA.
Yep.
And I'm gonna toss it to her. I'm gonna give it and say, go ahead and take this. I want to see if you're really of Cherokee descent. And he said that he's got to toss it gently, and he's got to be really careful with the way that he presents her this DNA test because of the Me Too movement. You can't be too careful.
Yeah, you gotta be
so
really delicate.
So he kind of mocks the movement, and guess what? They criticize the Democrats and the Me Too movement people, the anti-Trumpers, criticize this move by Trump by saying that by mocking the Me Too movement, you're going to prevent people from wanting to come forward.
No. The Me Too movement has actually caused people to not to want to come forward.
Okay. All right.
The Me Too movement is nothing but a bunch of liberal Democrat snowflakes that want to claim victimhood status and not let it go.
It's been hijacked by those kind of people,
yes,
hasn't it? It's totally been hijacked. It's turned into
what's his name? What's the ex-football player, the big black guy?
Terry
to say that he's part of the Me Too movement?
Well, no, he actually got grabbed in the package.
No, that's not by
a gay guy.
If you're at a bar in West Hollywood, you just might get nut checked.
But that's not appropriate.
Of course,
it's
not.
Probably a sexual assault. Especially if you're straight.
But you can't claim victimhood status.
Why?
You're not a victim.
Well, if you get your package grabbed.
Well, and if he gives a tug or something.
But what I'm saying,
it causes pain. And I don't know. Come on, embarrassment. Maybe
if you like it, is that what?
Yeah, you're not. Gay.
Oh, you're not.
You're
gay
not gay if you don't like it. If you don't like it, you're not gay. And
Oh.
apparently, Terry is not gay because he didn't like it.
Well, here's the thing. I would say that that's probably assault. But what I'm saying is that there's a lot of people that have come forward who are like, Brian, I've had somebody get a little bit forward asking me for a date.
Yes.
Me too. Hashtag me too.
He wouldn't stop pressing.
He
wouldn't
kept
stop pressing.
asking me for his phone number.
Right. And if you're any woman that has ever gone to a club,
which is weird because he should know his phone number.
Right. If you're a woman and you've ever been to a club or the club scene, the discotheque, if you're in Europe, wherever the case may be, you know, and I know because my wife has told me, you've been grabbed in the tush.
So it's kind of a cultural thing then. It's a cultural thing. So you're saying in some cultures.
You got alcohol, you got club scene, and you got scantily clad women.
Wow.
Testosterone's flying. I'm just.
But you still shouldn't get grabbed.
No. And you know what? I had a conversation with an ex-girlfriend years ago and brought her to tears because she got so angry at me. She was a lib. She was a real hardcore lib, snowflake. Mm-hmm. And I told her, I said, rape is not okay.
Right.
But if you go downtown Cincinnati over the Rhine, granted this was 20 years ago, over the Rhine, and you're walking around naked.
Well, by naked, you mean scantily clad.
You might get raped. And she would scream and yell at me that's your men. That's because of you men. And I'm like, no. I'm just saying, don't put yourself in a situation. If you can help it.
So you're
you can help it.
So you're saying that if a deer walks up to a sign that says it is not hunting season, that they should just be able to just waltz into somebody's house and tear up the couch and just whatever, like, it's not hunting season.
No, right, you can't. So, but the whole point that I'm trying to make, and she was flipping the script and getting all upset about it. The Me Too movement is a victimization hood. You join the victimhood. Mm-hmm. I've been victimized, but I am no longer a victim. You've got to move on.
Yeah, it's a mental thing that is holding yourself back.
And something else, because I feel like I've turned the curb on that, and I've come out of that pretty well. Something that I know this is a little bit different, but it's the same thing. It's all about being a victim. For those of you people who think it's cool to put the cross up of a dead loved one somewhere other than a cemetery or your own property.
Oh, I see where you're going.
Or property
with this.
that you purchased.
About this. Yeah, we've talked about this before.
Please, you're victimizing me. There's this girl, Susan Diner. She died at an intersection in 1991 when I was working at that Kroger in 1991, and nobody knew about it. All of a sudden, I leave. I go to L.A. I come back. I go to the military, go to L.A. I come back 10 years, 15 years later. There's a sign. There's a huge cross up at this intersection. And a picture of her, flowers, decorated. It is a total memorial. Somebody ripped the picture off, and then they put up a encased with plexiglass, bulletproof.
Resin.
Yes, I'm like...
it is.
And don't get mad at me, folks. I'm going to help heal you. Because I'm going to take my truck.
I kind of agree with you.
In the middle of the night, I'm going to take my truck and I'm going to cut them all down. And I'm going to put one simple white one up and I'll put on it, Jesus saves.
There you go.
I'm going to help you heal.
Okay.
I'm going to rip the band. It's going to happen when I might be really old when I do it. Because I haven't gotten. Well, it has to fester for a while for me to actually get the gumption to doing it. But
well, and also you might be able to plea mentally incompetent.
Yeah, when I'm 78, 80 years old, they'll be like, well, you got to let the dude go.
You got to let him go. He's kind of crazy. That Brian Smith, he's kind of crazy.
Even speaking about victimhood, what about the Democrats victimizing everybody who doesn't agree with them. Breitbart came out with an article. The headline to the article, rap sheet, 202 acts of media-approved violence and harassment against Trump supporters.
Oh, easily.
And they go back. Here's the list, Carrie.
They got the whole list, yeah.
They got the list. There's 202 attacks. They got the dates.
And by the way, I got to say this. There ain't no way that list in actual reality, is that little. Because it would be, these are ones that would have evidence of or had been in the news. It's probably 10 times this, easily.
Yeah, so, and this goes all the way back March 1st, 2016. Former Daily Show contributor Larry Wilmore jokes about killing Trump. We got to stop. You all got to stop this killing stuff. I mean, it's off. Left-wing thugs attack Trump's motorcade and his supporters. I mean, this is going back. 2016, 2017.
I know you guys remember this one when Brad Thor on the Glenn Beck show said if Congress won't remove Trump, what good patriot will? You remember that?
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that until I read that right there.
So we've got this week was a big week for this kind of thing. We have Mad Maxine. Mad Maxine is really, and this was from last Sunday's show, and I have it because it's part of her thing. She's yelling and screaming and angry, inciting. She's doing what Bernie Sanders did. Bernie Sanders got that guy to go shoot.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
shoot up the Republicans. Kill as many Republicans as I can.
Yeah, it was Bernie Sanders.
And then right after that shooting, you would think Bernie Sanders would pull back. No, and he didn't.
He doubled down.
Yes. And so we got Mad Maxine on AM Joy, which apparently somebody has that name on Twitter at AM Joy.
Isn't it her?
What?
She does have a Twitter account that was at some sort of AM Joy. I thought it was AM _.
All right, be careful your wires. She's going to pull the camera.
Oh, that'll be fine.
Anyway, so here's Mad Maxine on AM Joy, and this is what is getting them unelected. Folks, this hate and this anger, do not be bothered by it. The tides are turning.
Yes.
People are not putting up with this whole walk away. This is why people are walking away, and people are walking away in droves. The movement on Facebook is phenomenal. The guy started 2 pages. Both of them have well over 50,000 followers on each one of them. People are telling their stories left and right. And I hate the character to use these words, but Black Americans, Asian Americans, all of just Americans, minority Americans, even Americans in general, doesn't matter what color, creed, or race that you are, they're coming out and explaining why they left the Democrat Party, and the stories are very similar over and over again. Is it at
It's
AM Joy?
at AM Joy Show.
Right. Somebody stole AM Joy.
So she had to put show on the end.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought that her Twitter name was like at AM _Joy, but I checked it out and it wasn't there.
Yeah.
So anyway.
So here's Nancy Nancy. I'm getting them all mixed up. He's crazy Mad Maxine.
I am prepared for him. Again, I'm not intimidated by him. I think he does not deserve to be the president of the United States, and I simply stand up to him. And so he'll keep doing that as he has done throughout his limited career of his.
What? Limited? This is called ad hominem. This is just gratuitous ad hominem is what it is. Limited career.
Well, you got to make fun of him somehow, so that's what she does. That's how she's attempting to throw jabs.
Ad hominem is personal attacks when you don't have an actual legitimate argument.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
I'm going to get on. We're talking about what we as Democrats are doing to deal with the most important issues of our times, important issues that we need to be focused on, and providing the kind of public policy that will help create housing in this country.
Because that is that's the number one thing that we need in this country. She's focused on housing.
We have a builder as the president of the United States.
We got. Speaking about that, real quick, Sam in our in our private message meetup group, Smyth Radio. Sam said that there are signs where the government is asking people on the border in Texas if the federal government can come and survey their land, walk on their land and survey their land for a wall.
If my land bordered the border of Mexico,
you get a free wall.
I would absolutely say yes, please.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
I'll take one.
Unless, it is south facing, so you're on the north, which would shade some of your crops. Do they grow crops in South Texas?
It's a desert out there.
Is it? All right.
We have a housing crisis that will try and protect.
Do we have a housing crisis?
I didn't know. I think Obama did.
Yeah,
we had a housing crisis. Yeah.
Obamacare, the ACA that they're trying to tear down every day.
Yes, please.
That will deal with infrastructure.
Okay, what? Why did they always say? They always go down that road.
If she wants to run on America needing infrastructure, welcome back, Trump.
Thank you.
That we can create jobs. We can.
Yeah, they can create jobs. We saw that for 8 years.
Walk and chew gum at the same time.
She can walk and chew gum at the same time.
I can defend against him, and I can promote good public policy. I intend to do that, and let him call me whatever he wants to call me. Let him say whatever he wants to say. He will not stop me. He cannot cause me to shut down. That's what they would like to do. They want me to run away. They want me to stop talking. They want me to be...
Well, the Democrat Party wants you to stop talking.
I know. Trump literally said the opposite. Literally the opposite of what you just said. He said, please keep talking. Please.
I think she's getting her wires mixed because the DNC wants her to stop talking.
Right.
Because she blasted Nancy Pelosi and Chuck U. Schumer.
Quiet, but he can't do that to me. I won't stand for it.
And not only did you have that, the right came after you, but you had even the leadership of the Democratic Party, Nancy Pelosi, issuing a statement criticizing you. And this is Chuck Schumer, the Democratic leader of the Senate, on Monday.
I strongly disagree with those who advocate harassing folks if they don't agree with you. If you disagree with a politician, organize your fellow citizens to action and vote them out of office. But no one should call for the harassment of political opponents. That's not right. That's not American.
Were you surprised?
Okay, so she played that clip and said, Mad Maxine, here's Chuck Schumer calling you out.
And with substance, too. I mean, yes. I got to give Chuck a little credit there. He was saying it the way that any good patriotic American would say it.
Right.
To have the leadership of your own party come out and essentially call you un-American.
Well, I was surprised that Chuck Schumer, reached into the other house to do that. I've not quite seen that done before, but one of the things I recognize being an elected official is in the final analysis, leadership like Chuck Schumer's will do anything that they think is necessary to protect their leadership. And so what I have to do is not focus on them. I got to
what?
So she called her out and said, Chuck Schumer called you un-American.
Yeah, and I actually use the word patriotic in reference to what Chuck actually said. It's because it's the American way, really. You don't call for the violence of towards people. You organize your fellow Americans and vote them out.
Right, and there's nothing wrong with what he said and how he said it. He just told her, he said, hey, yo, you got to cut this violence out. You can't be calling for violence against other Americans, which is true. But she took the road and said, he's calling you out for calling violence.
And he
called him. He calling you out for being un-American.
Right? No, I agree with her.
What?
No, I agree. That is un-American. I think he's saying that the American way is to organize your fellow citizens and vote them out.
But A.M. Joy is trying to make this you're un-American just because you're un-American. Not for why he called you un-American. She's just calling you un-American. You're not an American.
Well,
I think she's trying to play with words there to make it.
I guess she's making it more of hyperbole.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
It's basically trying to heighten the drama, for sure.
Yes, absolutely. So Real quick, folks, Never Trumpers suffer yet another utter humiliation. Last week was especially good. This from Breitbart News. Especially glorious, not just because we rejected the latest GOP's amnesty scheme, not just because we defunded the left's union cash extortion machine with the Janus decision, and not just because Justice Kennedy is leaving to be the swing vote on his retirement community HOA.
Wow.
It was especially glorious because these enormous victories, these latest enormous victories, were the direct result of normal Americans giving the gimps, the grifters, and the Giebos of Never Trump the George Costanza treatment by doing precisely the opposite our alleged betters' political instincts.
Wow.
So what he was saying by that, and I went and looked it up. There was an episode that George Costanza, he came into the restaurant for Seinfeld and sat down. He said, every decision I've ever made has been wrong. I'm a loser, I'm not, and I just on and on and on, kept beating himself up.
Okay.
The waitress came and said, oh, the usual? Okay. And no, I want the opposite of tuna sandwich. I want chicken on rye, potato salad. And he called out some crazy things. And
so he was going to do the opposite of what his instincts are.
Yeah. So the waitress walked away, and Elaine noticed a beautiful blonde up at the counter look back at George. And she's like, George, she just looked at you. And he's like, I'm bald, I'm unemployed, and I live with my parents. What does she want with me? And she's like, well, didn't you say you were going to do the opposite of everything? And Seinfeld chimed in, do the opposite. She's like, you know what? I'm going to do the opposite. So he walked up to her, got her attention. She said, that's exactly what I ordered. And that's why I looked at you. And then he said, well, I don't have a job and I live with my parents. And she smiled and grinned and said, oh, that's okay. So that's what he means. Folks, we are not cowering down. We are not the people that you could call names in the past and get away with it.
And kind of tying into the very beginning of the show, there are people out there that are like, well, because of the Jim Jordan allegations, speakership is probably out of the question. I'm like, no. If anything, the Trump movement and Donald Trump has shown us is that you look them dead in the eye and say, you're lying.
Not today, folks. We're not doing this today.
Not today. That's a better way. Not today, folks. And guess what? If anybody tries to tell you, well, I guess. Do you know what Speaker Ryan said about the allegations?
That I don't know.
These are very serious allegations. I swear, word for word, these are very serious allegations.
This talking head on Fox News said the exact same thing.
Yeah. So what Rush has said, basically, we're living in the post-Rush, do what Rush says and not what everybody else says and does world, right. Where Rush Limbaugh says, it's not the nature of the evidence, it's the seriousness of the allegations. And he makes a big joke about it. And now every time we hear somebody come out, and we all know this Jim Jordan stuff is totally bogus. Whatever happened to the victims may be true.
They need to take that up with the Ohio State University.
They do need to take it up with them.
And the
but
doctor.
To drag Jim Jordan into this is totally bogus. We all know it. And what do? They come out and say, these are very serious allegations.
What about old boy in Alabama?
Those were very serious allegations. And then when the evidence came out, it was like, we actually have evidence now. And then we come to find out that it was proven false. And now that was a little different. It was enough. When you fake evidence, we're now seeing that does hold weight. Even fake evidence.
Right. It can't hold weight for what, almost 2 years now.
But there's no way to fake. There's no way to fake the evidence against the Ohio State
right
alumni.
And by the way, Gloria Allred, did you?
I'm waiting for Mike.
Did you help that girl out? Did you help any of the victims out? Any of the victims?
No.
Did you help
Gloria? When Gloria, as soon as you find out that a alleged victim is being represented by Gloria Allred, you know the whole thing's fake.
Absolutely.
You're pretty much admitting that you are making it up if you hire Gloria Allred. Period.
Correct. Absolutely correct. So check this out real quick. We're running out of time.
Did Mike hire her?
I don't know. Okay. You probably should.
All right. Do crash. What do you call it? Lightning round. We're going to do lightning round.
I was going to say this real quick. This is kind of ties into all of this. The walk away movement is huge. We played the video of the gay former Democrat gay man coming out
at U.S. Minority.
Correct. Coming out and saying that I've walked away, completely walked away. Amen to him.
You definitely should be following him. He is at U.S. Minority. I'm not going to get too much into detail on this because I hate infighting, but I will tell you this. #walkaway is at U.S. Minority.
Okay.
Period.
Okay.
So just saying.
And so Dinesh D'Souza's got a new movie out exposing more of the left, the hate, the violence, called Death of a Nation. Can Donald Trump save us a second time as Abraham Lincoln saved us the first time?
Right. It's always Republicans saving the world.
Right, every single time. And so I received an email from Dinesh D'Souza saying, if we can get together 75 people in our area and willing to help promote his new movie, he will take care of the rest and get that movie into our local theater.
Cool.
So we got to drum up 75 people from somewhere.
Oh, we'll get it.
75 Trump supporters. Maybe we could tap oh boy.
Mike?
Yeah, Mike Odioso.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, maybe
you could easily come up with 75 people with him.
That would be phenomenal. He said, here's the application, fill it all out, set it all up, and we'll take it from here. So I'm really excited about trying to attempt to do that. See what happens. I mean, it'd be cool to have Dinesh on the show. Little intro view.
I've already put out the request. So Dinesh, if you're gonna do a debate with Cenk Unger,
from TYT,
come on and
hang out
promote your movie on our show. I mean,
right.
It's ridiculous.
Hang out with the good guys.
Right. Anyway,
so this is the movie trailer. It's only 2 minutes long. Real quick, this is the movie trailer of Dinesh D'Souza's new movie.
If we can get it to go, how can you always mute that?
I don't know.
Lincoln was elected to unite a country and stop slavery. Democrats smeared him, went to war against him, assassinated him. Now their target is Trump.
Donald Trump wins the presidency. So help me God.
They say he's killing America.
There will be a vote to impeach.
They say he's a racist.
This was a white lash.
And a fascist. Who are the real racists?
Northern Democrats had conspired together with Southern Democrats to take away the fruit of other people's labor.
Who are the real fascists?
Both Mussolini and Hitler set up and ran welfare states.
This was done by the do-gooders, the liberals, the people who wanted to improve society.
Which party attacks our free speech?
How dare you speak against the law?
Our religious liberty and our personal safety.
I can't wait to see this.
I'm fired up.
A nation dies when its people are not free. We too must fight for freedom, regardless of the price we pay.
An end in terror is preferable to a terror with no end.
The stakes could not be higher. We're talking about America, the greatest nation on earth. Lincoln saved America for the first time. It's now up to us to save America a second time.
Cool.
How about that? 75 people we need to get together and send it to Dinesh. I got the application, everything. All I need to do is put it all together. I would assume you probably have to live close to Cincinnati, but if you don't live close to Cincinnati, you just want to chip in, chip away.
So what happens if we get 75 people?
They'll find a way to air this screening of this movie before August 3rd, near or around or somewhere in our city.
Oh, cool.
So we could be the first ones to watch it. Weeks in advance.
August 3rd?
August 3rd is when it comes out. But it doesn't mean it's going to be in your city either.
That's in less than a month.
I know.
Nah. We'd have to get 75 people together like tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I just got the email today.
Did you tell them that it's 3 weeks before it comes out?
He
wouldn't even be able to organize the pre-screening quick enough. We'd end up watching it on
Netflix.
Oh my gosh! Anyway, so what's we're on lightning round, people.
Okay.
We are on lightning round. We got to move. We got to move.
SCOTUS 5-4 shot at the unions. Education, the National Education Association fears losing 200,000 members this year and 100,000 next year.
Are these teachers?
Yes, biggest union plans to cut $50 million from its budget.
Sweet.
The teachers union, and I think anywhere from 15 to 65% member loss. California Teachers Association cuts its budget 2018-2019 more than $20 million because the union estimates. Not only that, but with this and the tax cuts, and they're talking 6 months into the tax cuts, businesses are ripping and roaring and through the roof. Things are looking really good for the American economy, and to strike a dagger at the heart of the mob boss mentality machine to
Brian,
fund the Democrat Party.
Are you aware that this week is Car Week on History Channel?
No, I didn't.
Oh, it's really cool, except for the fact that they're extremely liberally biased.
Yeah.
So that's fine. That's fine. So I'm watching it, and it's all like the history of the automobile, right? And what do you know? A big part of their historical rendition,
of course,
is the unions and their involvement, lack of in the beginning, and then the rise of it and the fighting back by Henry Ford and all that kind of stuff. And so, of course, I've been formulating my opinions on it. And now that you're just pointing out this SCOTUS decision, 5-4 shot at unions, look, guys, it's like this. I support the right of a group of people to collectively bargain, to come together in a contract with each other.
Yep, agree.
Against their company so that they can collectively bargain or whatever in order to protect themselves, like band together, avoid people getting abused and looking out for the little guy. All of this stuff, I'm totally for all that. One thing I think that it should be totally banned, I think there should be a constitutional amendment that protects the citizens of the U.S. from people unionizing against anything public, whether it is deep state government bureaucracies.
Right.
They should not be allowed to be unionized because who are you collectively bargaining against?
The people.
Yeah, and
you're collectively bargaining against us.
Yeah, and there's not like a company owner or a dictator or whatever who you're collectively bargaining against. It's some bureaucrat that's like, I don't care, just sign off on it. Just give them whatever they want. That's not cool. All right, so there's that. And also, teachers unions. Look, if education was private, I'd be like, yes, collectively bargain, unionize.
But you don't make it mandatory. If a teacher doesn't want to be a part of that, they can opt out.
Well, it wouldn't by default. But what I'm saying is yeah, they should be allowed to opt out. That's why I totally agree with the SCOTUS decision. I think they were right about this. But if we have a Department of Education where we have schools that are owned by the government through the Department of Education, these are public schools. They are a part of our government.
Right.
They shouldn't be allowed to have unions.
No. Sorry.
For the same reason that when you work as a government bureaucrat, you are serving your nation, and you shouldn't be collectively bargaining against the very people that you serve. I mean, are military personnel allowed to unionize against the drill instructors?
Hey, I need you to go out and dig that foxhole. I need you to get on the front line.
Whoa. First of all,
I didn't sign up for this. I need to call my union representative. I'm filing paperwork.
And you need to talk to the,
Yeah, don't talk to me.
Yeah, that's just ridiculous.
Boss.
And same thing, if you want to be able to collectively bargain with a school, it should be private. If it's a public school, you, as a teacher, you're serving your nation because it's a government job. You're working for the government, and you shouldn't be allowed to. I honestly believe that this was the start of a big decline in America when I think it was JFK said, "Oh, you guys want to unionize in government? Go ahead." It was JFK that did that.
Wow.
So anyway.
So we got Vanessa just tweeted out, Vessi, that would be awesome. She said she'd love to take a road trip to Cincinnati. She's been here a couple times already. I invite every one of you. Cincinnati, folks.
Absolutely.
Cincinnati. Anyway, so that, and now we've got the biggest upheaval, the upending. Trump doubles down on Roe v. Wade. That was huge this week.
He said it's going to have to be up to the states pretty soon. I just made me.
Abortion may soon end up with the states.
Which, by the way, that is so constitutional.
Yes. Yeah, I agree 100%.
I'm to the point now where if you oppose Trump, you oppose the Constitution because like people talk about him as if he doesn't know government. He has no experience. He never worked in the government. He's never been a politician. What does he know? He's doing everything wrong. He's trying to be a dictator. He's not doing things the right way. When he says something when it comes to process in government, it is the most, like the wording that he uses is the most constitutional possible.
Right. And so now the Democrats are doubling down on their support for murdering babies. And this, it's 2.5 minutes long, but you've got to see this. This is a woman that's a Democrat trying to scare the living bejesus out of you because some deranged woman attempted a coat hanger abortion. And that is somehow our Republicans' fault.
Okay.
It's our fault.
You know, right now, as we speak, there's a woman, Anna Yelka, who is sitting in jail in Tennessee.
You were down there.
I wasn't myself, but Stop Patriarchy went down there, and a bunch of revolutionary communists went down there, and the Revolution Club.
The woman accused of trying to self-abort her 6-month-long pregnancy appeared before a judge this morning. Our Cuthbert Langley has been following this story since it first broke. Cuthbert, lots of controversy today.
There was, Carrie. Protesters were both inside and outside the courtroom as Anna Yelka, the mother accused of trying to self-abort her baby with a coat hanger, appeared in court for the first time, charged with attempted first-degree murder.
This is what women used to do before Roe v. Wade.
Whoa, she just jumped the shark right there.
Carrie, this is what everybody did this, Carrie. Everybody coat hangered.
But if she's doing it post Roe v. Wade,
this is just now. This is this year.
We haven't made abortion illegal yet.
No, but Carrie, this is widespread. It's all over the place.
Well, if they're doing it when abortion is legal, then the idea that making it illegal will end it is nonsensical.
That is correct. This is the liberal lunacy, and the guy asks her a very good question.
Totally jumping the shark there,
and destroys her.
A lot of women died using coat hangers. Thousands of women died.
Stop using coat hangers.
Thousands?
She is totally.
So here we are in
just making
2015. This was last year. And you have a woman who's bleeding profusely from allegedly using a coat hanger to induce her own abortion. And she rushes to the hospital, afraid for her life. And instead of intervening and helping this woman to complete an abortion she clearly wanted and had every right to get, the hospital acts against her will and removes a fetus from her body, puts it on life support, and forces her to become a mother against her will.
Oh, the humanity. The humanity.
Folks, I'm really emotionally upset at this woman. This is the most despicable, most vile thing I've ever...
There's an especially warm place in hell for this woman.
Then, instead of protecting her privacy and her well-being and her wishes, they turn her over to the state. So Anna Yelka right now is sitting in jail, facing first-degree attempted murder charges. And this is, I put this analogous to an honor killing. Okay, you kill one woman in a very public way for stepping out of her role. You send a message to all women. This is your place.
What is her role? I'd love to hear what her role is. That they just become a baby dumpster? I mean, is that what the role of women is to go out and have sex as much as they want with whoever they want, and they should just be able to just flush it out like a toilet?
Well, Carrie, that's
is that what? Yeah. I don't want. I have a daughter. I don't want my daughter to grow up to become a baby toilet.
And Carrie and I have talked about this so much and so often. We both have daughters. His is
12, just turned 12, yeah.
Mine 10 and 9, and we both talk to each other about this, and that our daughters hold the responsibility and the choice and the decision. They
have all the power.
Yes, your number one decision in your life is picking and choosing the right man as a husband, not freely having sex willy-nilly.
And just well, that's okay, because since I can just get an abortion, then I don't have to worry about consequences until all of a sudden I have some crazy disease and whatnot.
And you can get an STD that causes a cervical cancer, and then you have to have a hysterectomy, and then you'll never have children. So whose fault? Where's the decision making? You got to have personal responsibility,
right? And at the end of the day, though, because you can make choices whatever you want, but at the end of the day, if you're pregnant, choices were made in the past that caused you to become pregnant.
Right.
It's not like pregnancy is not a condition that you happen upon because you're a woman.
Okay, listen to this. This is
part of it. Here's Anna Yoka, and what's been done to her is a message to millions of women. Not only are we going back to the days when women were forced to have children against their will or forced to risk their lives not to, but if you risk your life and you end up in a position where you could be bleeding to death, you better not go to a hospital, because you're not going to get help there. You're going to be criminalized. You're going to be sent to jail. You're going to be shamed. You're going to be made an example of. We have to confront the truth as it is, and then we have to fight accordingly.
People are listening to that description of that truly horrific scenario that you just laid out and say, well, we took the fetus out and put it on life support. They're going to use that narrative as evidence that it was attempted murder. Child can survive outside of the womb. The fetus can survive without the mother.
That's true.
I mean, he made a great point, right?
I thought it was.
Here's the answer.
Is that something that you find coming up against, trying to figure out exactly when to define when life begins and when life ends?
Begins. A sperm is alive. An egg is alive.
Whoa. Hold on. I know we're running out of time here, but real quickly, a human being is formed when the DNA half that's in sperm combines with the DNA half that's in the egg. By themselves, they are not in any way it's a scientific fact that a sperm is not a human being and an egg is not a human being. When the DNA halves meet together and then they divide and all that is a human being scientifically, because it has that fertilized egg has the same DNA that it will until it's dead. All the way 90 years later, 100 years later, it could live to be 100 years old, become a great-grandparent, whatever. DNA is exactly the same from the fertilized egg all the way. So scientifically, a human being. So when a sperm is alive, it's not a human being, period.
She's mixing the words. She's saying alive. She's using the word alive. It's not a human being.
It's like saying, well, you shouldn't kill a dog. Well, a dog is a dog, not a human being.
Right.
Well, you shouldn't kill a dog, because there's probably people yelling at me right now. But
well, if there's that pit bull that went after your mom back in the day,
the neighbor
dog, and then the dog bit the cop. The cop had
to shoot it. Yeah.
I'm terminating a pregnancy. Yes, it's killing a fetus. I have no problem with that.
Wow.
A fetus is not a person. It's a potential person. And even if it could survive outside the womb, that's not the definition of a person.
Yes, it
is,
actually.
A woman is a person. She's somebody with memories. She's somebody with relationships.
Oh,
she's
only if you have memories.
A sense of who she is, and others have a sense of her. She has a life. She's not a potential life. And if you treat a woman like she can't control whether she's going to have a child or not, she can't control what's in her own body.
She does have control. She has control.
It's total control.
You guys, you liberal, not everybody watching, none of you guys. The liberals, you guys took that choice away.
Abortion, birth control, all that was to get women to not have to make a choice.
Well, just to clarify, you took it away psychologically by saying, no, you should have sex. You should everybody just have sex whenever you want. Well, you're not telling them the power that they have. You're literally trying to take their power away by not telling them where their power comes from.
Right.
Which is no.
Done.
Yeah.
And you are reducing her to an incubator. That's what I'm
You're
opposed
reducing her to a
Not
incubator.
all life in every condition, in every circumstance, should be preserved. And if it's a part of a woman and it's not her decision, then you're saying that woman's life doesn't matter.
This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. This woman is totally insane and very stupid, actually.
And then I won't play the other one, but Whoopi Goldberg and left Looney on it, and Whoopi Goldberg screamed out loud, "Stay out of my vagina."
And her behind.
And her behind, yeah. And Mark Dice
apparently there's some
posted that up and said nobody wants.
Yeah,
no,
I do not. No. I agree with Mark Dice. So.
Oh my gosh, it's 57.
Yeah, you didn't want to play any more videos.
Yeah, I know. So President Trump forcing red state Democrats to oppose pro-gun justice in election year. Folks, Donald Trump is playing this out. I know it's going slow, but everything is timed perfectly. These Democrats know that their constituents that vote for them love their guns. Donald Trump is now forcing those Democrats to pick his SCOTUS. If I pick a pro-life, pro-gun SCOTUS, and you say no to it, your constituent's going to turn.
In the red state.
Yeah, in a red state.
Interesting. Okay, so we have Jim Renacci, real quick, because we're about to be done. Jim Renacci is running against Sherrod Brown. Sherrod Brown is full-blown Karl Marx communist. 100%. He's full-blown red diaper baby, all that stuff. And Jim Renacci's trying to take his spot. This is an interesting strategy. And by the way, Trump is all in on Jim Renacci. All in on him. If we could replace Sherrod Brown in Ohio with Jim Renacci and have Rob Portman there, so it'll be Rob Portman and Jim Renacci, Ohio is going to be about as red as they come.
We'll be getting good.
It'll be pretty
awesome.
Real
good.
It'll be pretty awesome.
And so just real quick, just the loony lefties all over the world. Venezuela announced they are now running out of water. No more water in Venezuela. Mexico elects a communist, socialist, outspoken.
I'm glad.
You guys are going to get Venezuela?
I'm glad because it'll just be a good way to draw the line.
He won the wall. He won in an absolute landslide. It was not even close.
This goes to show you why we need a secure border. We don't want that stuff over here.
Oh, and Bernie Sanders is being purged because he's not left enough, and he didn't come out against ICE.
Well, we know that when he received his $250,000 car and his $600,000 home for getting out of the way and endorsing Hillary Clinton, he was done for. There was no recovering from that. Zero. They have a picture of him in a $250,000 sports car, red no less.
Oh.
The guy's like 90. Come on.
Absolutely. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez gone straight far left, loony liberal.
She doesn't even know. She's too young to even know.
Yep, so far, and she actually had to change her website because there's a lot of bad things on there that she didn't think she was going to win. Now she won, so she had to change it.
What do you mean bad? Like communist stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's going to happen.
Anyways, that's the fastest 3 hours you're going to spend with anybody, anytime, anywhere.
Hope you guys enjoyed the interview. Share that around to everybody on Facebook, on Twitter. Share, people.
And then tomorrow, Monday evening, I will replay the show on Facebook. If you would please just give a little reshare, retweet, thumb up, something or other, however that goes.
Check it out, people.
All right.
100%. See you guys.
With unfathomable power.
What kind of power?
Unfathomable. It's without fathom.